bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio for the masses. Yeah, let's do this. Today's Tuesday, January 29th, 2019. 29 days into the new year, just 336 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, The Planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Yeah, so right before the show, during the intro, as you can see, I've got a strange habit. I do. I've got a strange habit. I take off my rings and jewelry before the show. And my watch. I take everything off. You've probably noticed that. You've seen pictures of me out there, and and I wear things, and I always have a watch on, but I don't like it for the show. You know what? I don't like it indoors. It's kind of weird, right? Some kind of obsessive compulsive disorder that I have with wearing jewelry indoors. I come down to the bunker and I take everything off, and so that's what I don't wear a watch. I leave bracelets on because they're just difficult to take off. So there you go. That stuff. But the rings and the wire, I have to take those off. I had I first started to notice obsessive compulsive behavior when I was a kid at Bell Laboratories. And I had a boss. He was much older than me then, close to retirement, and that was 35, 40 years ago, 35 years ago, 1981, 82. His name was Chance, and Chance would walk around. Chance Schultz was his name, and pretty cool guy. Fired me, but nonetheless, up until that moment, I always thought he was a really cool guy. So anyway, but he would walk around the art room, our art group, and the drafting room, the big drafting room, and he would walk around, and he would not, as he walked past a drawing board, of which there were hundreds, and everybody with a drawing board had a desk and a server. He would walk by and he would knock. He couldn't help it. He would knock on all the desks and the drawing boards. And I would sit and I would watch him, and he'd walk around in the morning, kind of like Office Space, right? Yeah. How you doing? Yeah. And, his coffee cup. He'd just walk around. Good morning. And he'd walk away and I was just like, dude, that is the trippiest thing. And he did it for years, that I was there. And it was my first exposure to that. And when you hear about somebody, you know, having to things with doorknobs or their houses or the things that they would do before or after they would leave a room or walk through a door or whatever, wash hands, and they would do these things. Well, it's real because I watched this guy do it, and he couldn't help himself. I never got in that habit. I never did. And then I was watching True Detective last night after the show. Really good, by the way, this season. And I think it's like the AG, State Attorney General for the state that they are in, wherever it is. I think it's Arkansas. He gets up to leave the office, knocks on the desk. I was like, I immediately thought of Chance Schultz back at Bell Laboratories. Man, if anybody out there is listening that worked at Bell Labs and remembers Chance Schultz, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Shoot me an email. That's you never know who's out there listening. All right, I don't know how I got into that. Oh, yeah, the rings. So, yeah, that's my little obsessive-compulsive disorder thing that I do. I can't help it. Whenever I get home, right, rings, watch off in the tray, and then when I go to leave the house, I'll put stuff on and I leave. In fact, I don't even think I can drive a car without having a watch on. If I ever leave the house and I'll be going down the street and U-turn, I've got to go back. I cannot. No, I've got to go back. I've done it so much. What did you forget? Nothing. Rita knows exactly what I've got to go and put on, and then I can leave the house. So there you go. Exit the house, return. Watches and rings go on and off. That's my thing. All right, where am I at? It's going to be a great show tonight because we have world musician, totally awoke individual, Porangui. Poranguí is here. I cannot wait. It's Ghee, okay? Porangui is here. Very excited. He was with us last year because he was playing at Disclosure Fest. And we had him on the show for about a half an hour, played his music. And talking to him, it was such a dynamic, very brief conversation. And we knew that we had to get him back on the show. He's been out there doing his thing. Tonight is the first opportunity that we've had to get him on with us. So tonight he is here. Tomorrow night, Patrick Wood is back with us. He's got a new book out, The Hard Road to the New World Order. So we will be talking about technocracy. We're going to talk 5G. Oh, man. All of it. Connected cities. We're going to do all of that tomorrow night. Okay? It's going to be a great conversation with Patrick Wood. Thursday is another Fader night. Open lines all night long. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media, on Stellar, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. It's all right there. I was over... more on this in just a bit. I was over on YouTube today because of some deep fake videos. And so I was over there poking around. Went over to our YouTube channel briefly and noticed that we are approaching, it's not that there's fanfare here, but it was kind of shocking to me that we're about to hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And every time something like that happens, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it, but it just makes me wonder how we got here, right? We're closing in on 100,000. I think I think we'll be at 90,000 by the end of the show tonight, and then that's it, and then we'll hit that milestone of 100,000, and then it's no big deal until we get to 1 million, right? Okay, yeah, 100,000. So go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us get to that number, and then we can forget about it for about 10 years. Okay, all right. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Very simple. And hashtag F2B is the sandbox if you want to come out and hang out there. Also, we have 2 chat rooms. We have one over on Spreaker and one over at KGRA, The Planet. Any questions or comments during the show tonight? Any other night? Hashtag F2BQ. The 2 is the number 2. Hashtag F, the number 2, BQ. You can also email throughout the show, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. All right, let's get to our breaking news. Very sad whenever I have to announce something like this. James Ingram, one of the biggest stars in R&B music in the 1980s and 90s, and a double Grammy winner, 2-time Oscar nominee, died today at the very young age of 66. He was believed to have been ill for some time now, and his last album, which was called Stand in the Light, with Quincy Jones as producer, was released all the way back in 2008, 10 years ago. Prior to that, he hadn't released an album since 1993. Yamo Be There, remember that? Michael McDonald, unbelievable. James Ingram, 66 years old. Also today, British PM Theresa May has been forced to reopen Brexit negotiations with Europe. May bowed to pressure from the UK lawmakers who demanded she renegotiate her hard-fought Brexit deal. In a sharp reversal of policy, the British Prime Minister agreed to return to Brussels and reopen Brexit talks, even though she had previously said the idea was a non-starter, and the EU has repeatedly insisted the deal is locked down. Reading through all of the responses today, both on the Brussels side, the EU side, and the British and the Parliament side, EU's like, no deal. You signed off on it. That is it. Unbelievable what is going on right now. And I don't understand a whole lot about European politics. I don't even think the Europeans do. Certainly British politics confuses me to no end. But I don't know why. But Britain leaving the EU, it doesn't feel right. I don't know. And I know it was voted on. I get it. 51% of the British people said, let's go. Well, it just feels strange to me. Feels strange. Maybe, does it? It has to happen, right? I don't even know. I'm so confused. I don't even know how you can renegotiate. She's been doing it for 2.5 years and gets the deal done with the EU. How do you renegotiate something in 3 weeks? Sounds impossible to me. Well, also, right now, extreme cold is absolutely torturing much of the United States, and it looks like Minnesota may see wind chills of minus 70 degrees. So everybody out there listening to me now, I know it's cold out there. Stay home, stay safe, and stay warm. Dozens of temperature and wind chill records are expected to occur from the Dakotas all the way to New York State. It's absolutely brutal. And before anybody goes or expects me to say, hey, man, what about global warming, man? Is it real? How do we, especially these last, 5 or 10 years, have been the coldest winters on record? I don't know. And I know about the evidence, and I know about this, and I realize that. One of the most polarizing things that you can get into now, you've always got racism, you've got sexism, you've got politics, you've got religion. You really want to pick a fight with somebody? Guaranteed. Social media, this show, Twitter, in a restaurant, coworker, family member. Bring up global warming and then pick a side and then watch it get ugly. That's a rowdy subject, and I don't even understand it. Okay, so there you go. That's my take. I don't get it. I don't get either side. It's funny. Either side, both can't be right, but they both can be wrong. That's my take. All right. Also today, National Security Advisor John Bolton has threatened the government in Caracas, Venezuela, saying they had better not lay a finger on Juan Guaido. It's Gardo. It's funny. I went out to different sites today to get the pronunciation. They were all different. So Guaido, man, I can't even say it. I can't say it. But anyway, the new guy down in Venezuela, who Washington considers to be Venezuela's president, today he got a line of credit. A serious line of credit to the tune of $7 billion. They said that only Juan is going to have access to that money. Maduro is not. And Maduro has threatened to shut down his access to money and close his bank accounts down in Venezuela. So what do? Do you get issued a United States issued ATM card to $7 billion? How do you spend it? How do you? Anyway, 5,000 troops are on their way to Colombia, and Colombia says they don't know anything about it. But let me tell you, that's it. The diplomats for the United States are staying in Caracas, and all of the consulates, they're all staying down there. They're not leaving. There's that part of it. The threat has been laid. Bolton's notepad was laid visible, obviously, for everybody to see. You're doing a press conference in front of the press corps at the White House, and you're showing your memo pad like that, your legal pad, with something scrolled at the top, nice and clear, and you're showing it to all the cameras. Is it Bolton's way of getting the message out without having to say it? Right? Well, that seems like it was all a plant. Well, and now you just lay all of this out. You take their money, you take the oil money, you lock that down, you give that to the guy that you're endorsing, and you say, don't touch him or else. It's just like, here we go. Here we go. And I hate to say that I called it. I never like going there, but I did. All right. And so he said today, and I'm quoting, this is John Bolton, "Let me reiterate, there will be serious consequences for those who attempt to subvert democracy and harm Guaido." So there you go. End quote. Come join us for the 2019 Conscious Life Expo right here in Los Angeles, February 22nd through the 25th at the LAX Hilton, celebrating this year the 50th anniversary of Chariots of the Gods with Eric Von Daniken. Tickets and info are over at ConsciousLifeExpo.com, and it's simple to get to. Click on the banners over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. And then after that, we'll be at Contact in the Desert. That is May 31st through June 3rd in Indian Wells, Palm Springs, California. Tickets and info at contactinthedesert.com. Our 2019 Soul Tech Conference, where we are teaching classrooms, where you get to go and get your knowledge on, is over the July 4th weekend at the Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado. Get on the mailing list and the waiting list right now, soultechgathering.com. All right, now I keep talking about Bitcoin, and I'm not going to stop. Bitcoin is continuing its crash. Today dipped into the 3,300s. I didn't check it out right before showtime, but it was still right there, 3,390, 3,380, 3,360. Yeah. Think of all of those out there, all of those crypto insiders, all of those guys that have been tweeting about Bitcoin and how to go and talk to you into getting in at 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 15,000. All right, talk to you because they knew it's going to be at 100,000 before the end of the year, down to $3,300. Oh man, keep holding on, man, keep holding on. I know what I'm talking about. I know what everybody else out there. They don't understand crypto, man. They don't understand the technology, man. They don't understand what's going on, man. Yeah. Man, if I would have jumped in, somebody talked me in at $6,000, $8,000, $18,000, and it's yeah. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. just $2 per month. Go to jimmychurchradio.com. Click on that podcast banner right there. Over 980 archive shows right there. All the software that you need. It is just $2 per month. You can also become a Fader Not over at our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. That's right. You can even get commercial-free downloadable archives. MP3s. Go do what you want. You can also get, if you wish, autographed hats, T-shirts. Get a private email to me. You get the bunker cam. You get all of that stuff. It's a great membership section, but you also become an official Fader Not. And I answer every email. I do. It's really starting to take up a big chunk of my day, but I'm doing it. Happy birthday to today. Rag and Bone Man, Rory Graham, is 34. His song Human has 750 million views. 1 out of 10 people on planet Earth have watched his video Human. 5.1 million likes. And the Gap Band's Charlie Wilson, lead singer for the Gap Band, today is 66. That's right. Sang that toe tapper, "You Dropped a Bomb on Me." On this day in history, OTD, 1996, France stops nuclear testing. That's right. Jacques Chirac said that is the definite end of France's nuclear testing program just one day after France exploded a nuclear device in the South Pacific. Fader fact: Stephen Pruitt, who has made more than 2,500,000 edits to Wikipedia articles, he's edited a third of Wikipedia's nearly 5.7 million pages. Right? And has generated more than 31,000 original articles for Wikipedia in the past 13 years. So if you ever wondered who's the dude editing Wikipedia, edited your page, his name is Stephen Pruitt. All right, tonight, Porangui is on the show. World musician, fully awoke. We are going to discuss everything tonight. I cannot wait for this conversation. And then tomorrow night, Patrick Wood is back. Thursday is another Fader night. Open lines all night long. And now, for not just yet, but we only have one call-in number now. New phone system's working. Pretty happy about that. We're going to keep the old numbers for now for an emergency. But we've got a new number. 747-228-2051. Don't call. Phone lines aren't open. All right. So earlier today, a couple hours before showtime, I got a text from Michael Oeming. Yep. It was one of those messages that started out with, "Dude, you've got to check this out." And with a link embedded, right? And now normally, and I know this is going to sound kind of messed up, but normally when I get something like this, no matter what, the dude, you got to check this out. No matter how good the clip may be, I don't click on it. I don't have the time. I get 50, 100 of those a day, and I just can't sit and watch every single YouTube video that is sent to me. And I'm just being honest here. It's the way it is, but this was from Oeming. So I clicked. And now I'm talking to you about it. It was good. It was scary. It was really scary, actually. It was a mashup of Steve Buscemi and Jennifer Lawrence. Now, I don't know who made it, so I can't give the appropriate credit to it right now. I wish I could, but I can't. But I'm sure it's being retweeted right now as I speak about it. And here's the deal. It's called a deep fake. So what I would like now, somebody retweet it up here on Twitter so I can retweet the retweet. The Jennifer Lawrence. There it is right there. Thank you, Arnold. Man, that was fast. And can I retweet a retweet? Is that possible? Let's see what happens here. Let's see if that actually goes out. It did. Okay, so there it is. And it's good. It's good. This is the thing. Is it funny? Yeah. Steve Buscemi's face on Jennifer Lawrence's body with Jennifer Lawrence's voice, right? Okay, Golden Globes interview. Is it cool? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Does it show us what kind of video and graphic technology is out there right now? Absolutely, it does. But for me, it's something more sinister, because other deep fakes that have been posted in the past were fun, but we saw the flaws. This new one takes the game up to a new level, because this is a mashup with no artifacts. It's smooth, it's amazing, it's perfect, and it's real. If you didn't know that it was Buscemi and Lawrence, you would have just thought that it was some actress doing a presser for the Golden Globes that you had never seen before. Some hybrid. It's that good. The first, and in fact, most deep fake videos are pretty easy to spot. Totally fake. And most just thought, whatever, Obama, Putin, Trump. We've seen all of those, right? And I almost went with somebody else, too. And the news got around last year that the porn industry was doing deep fakes with celebrities. And you know what? So we all just kind of blew it off. And it wasn't that good, right? It was just a funny aspect to it. In the wrong hands, though, this technology, and it's already in the wrong hands for sure. Video can now be generated. It can be released with anyone's face replaced, saying whatever, and used for any purpose. And by the time we figure out that it's fake, if that ever happens, the damage is done. The message is sent. And here's the flip side. Now, if a real video is released that embarrasses or implicates someone, now you can just say, hey, man, it's a deep fake. It's a mashup. That it's not real. So we got that issue. So by the time it's proven that it's real or proven that it's fake, it goes through the flow of the news cycle. And if you're lucky, we just move on to the next mashup and deep fake and scandal, right? And this is where I have a crazy thought. Just when you thought that the fake news being created by teenagers in Belarus was so last year, imagine those bored little kids now and what they can do with this kind of software. I don't think the Buscemi Lawrence mashup was created by industrial light and magic. It was probably done on a laptop in a living room with some spare time. And that, to me, is what is truly frightening. You got a video of some crime that was committed, right? And you got someone you don't like your landlord. Mash that baby up. Deep fake that raise of the rent. If you've got a message you want to spread during the next campaign season, call the team together. Get your video and your faces ready. Write your script. Render and watch the world freak out. And yes, it scares me. It scares me a lot. Think about it. Go and watch the Jennifer Lawrence, Steve Buscemi deep fake. It's good. It's really good. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Porangui. World music singer, performer, artist, and fully awoke. So we're going to do it all tonight. We're going to talk about our world. We're going to talk about music. I got my Fender shirt on. Right? We're going to talk about E.T. Disclosure 2019. And we're going to talk about you. All of that is next on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. This is Fade to Black. Stay with me.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hey folks, guess what the number one phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea. We love this tea. Time after time, week after week, we love this tea. Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find Fast Start Diet on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, Fast Start will include their #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. This is Jimmy Church. And whatever your diet plans are, do what I did. Go to faststartdiet.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, the planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. And you can follow Porangui. Let me see. His is at Porangui. We've got it up there, right there in Twitter. I just want to make sure you didn't have the real Porangui. There's only one. He grew up with 3 cultures, Brazil, Mexico, and the United States. He was steeped in various traditional forms of music, healing, ceremony, since birth. Drawing from his cross-cultural background and training at Duke University, Porangui has over 20 years of international work experience as an artist, a musician, an educator, filmmaker, consultant, therapist, utilizing the healing properties of sound and movement to foster our individual and collective well-being. As a live looping artist, and we'll talk about that, and one-man orchestra, he weaves ancestral songs and oh man, I just went tongue-tied, indigenous rhythms from around the globe, creating his performances from scratch using looping technology. His live grooves range from meditative to dance party, moving the body, lifting the spirit, and transcending the divide between performer and audience. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Porangui. How are you, man?
Great, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
Man, I got all tongue-tied. I'm nervous. A real musician coming on the show. You know, this is what's funny. I'm sitting here wearing a Fender shirt, right? Everybody can see it on the video. I've got all these beautiful guitars behind me, and I fake it. I fake it, man. It's all smoke and mirrors. I used to be a musician, but here's the thing, and this is where I'm going to start off with you. One of the things, I've produced many albums, I've written songs, I've done my thing with very successful artists, and the one thing that I still do today is when I listen to somebody that impresses me, I step back and I wonder what is going on in their head, where these beautiful melodies and these things that just transcend time, where they come from. And you, my friend, take it to a whole nother level. Very complex, very beautiful, very lush. And it doesn't matter if it's aggressive or it's soft, if it's world, if it's dance. Your stuff is very deep and layered and complex. Where does this come from? Is it easy? I'm always jealous of it because I can't do it, but you do. Is it easy for you to do this?
Yeah. Is it easy? I guess in so much as I really look at it more from the perspective, in so much as I'm able to get out of my own way and really allow it to move through me, rather than it being something that I'm generating, but rather something that's just flowing through me, then it's really easy. The moment I get in my head about it, or I think about it, or I'm like, oh, that was terrible, or that was great, or whatever, is the moment I get into my personality, my ego, and I really, it becomes difficult. Then I start thinking about, I get locked up. So for me, my real kind of the edge, if you will, and where I feel like the real magic happens is when I just really let go and just allow, I would say spirit, I would call it that myself, to move through me. And that inspirare, right? That ancient word, inspiration, where inspiration comes from, that inspire, the breath, right? The way that comes out of nothing, if you will, but it actually comes from another place, another dimension, you might say. And honestly, that's in that way, as long as I'm tapping into that source, it's infinite creativity and it's a river. And so I'm tuning into the muse. Music is this muse, this river that flows. I think we all tap into it in different ways, but for me, that's kind of been my secret, if you will. And actually, I try my best to teach and share that with others, because more than performing, honestly, for a big audience, one of the things that gets me the highest is watching people, just from an audience perspective, when I see somebody just who's never really tapped into music or has been locked up or had their voice shut down or whatever, to see them connect to that muse and activate themselves, man, that really lights it. That's what does it for me, honestly.
I think you hit onto something, because even with my experience in recording a guitar solo or playing something live, or recording another artist, when we do the take and they come back and they go, how was that? Right? Because they don't remember it. And I'm just like stunned, right? Dude, and should we do it again? No. Right? That was the one. And it's because they go into the zone. They're not thinking about technical issues. They let spirit take over. And we hear these comments over and over again from musicians where they just go to that special place and they're not thinking, right?
Right. Exactly. There's something else at work there. And I think that's the magic. And, some people call this, people who are in the meditation space or kind of looking, or even neurobiology space, talk about flow state. Right? How to get into this creative flow state, kind of like that time when things become timeless. those are moments when we get into flow state generally, and it could be doing anything, anything from riding a surfboard to, you know what I mean, when you're playing music, obviously, or in our case, or when someone's even just writing, writing in a journal or writing down some poetry. You get into that space where suddenly time goes away, and you go into this other dimension, I'd say, and when you're in that place, that's when magic can happen. I think that's really one of those unique redeeming qualities, if you will, of human beings. And I would venture to say probably other animals and beings have this ability, but we just can't perceive it, right? But it's a pretty incredible thing that I do feel it's a gift that we bring as humanity for all the things that we bring that aren't so great. I think that's one that we really, the more we can really bring that to the center focus of why we're here and what we offer to the world, creative beauty and bringing beauty into the world as opposed to all the destruction. I think that's a key element, and it's kind of what I'm all about. That's what all my music's about, and kind of the message I really try to bring forth, Years ago, and I'm going to go back to around 1990, okay? I don't even know if you were born, but let's go back to 1990. And in the music world, the studio and the recording world started to see things like MIDI take hold. Certain drum machines and the Linn drum started to come in. The MPC 1000 and 3000 from Akai came in, and these samplers. But what it also introduced, it was one thing to replace drums or samples or strings and things like that. But what it brought into was a whole nother artistic freedom and creativity and it wasn't going to take long before musicians and creative people started to figure this out and turn it into a new musical genre. And now today, looping is out there, and some of the most creative stuff goes on with looping. But most of this audience doesn't know what you and I are talking about. So what is for you? What is looping? Great question. So what is looping? Man, it is a universe. First of all, some might equate it to the technology that lets you do this thing, but I love the fact. So one of the instruments that I play, I play a lot of them, and I specifically I really am honored that I get to play and have studied and gotten to experience a lot of indigenous instruments. So a lot of the instruments I play aren't the things that you go down to Guitar Center and find necessarily. So and that's intentional. So one of the main instruments I really has been a dear ally to me is the didgeridoo, which the Aboriginal people of Australia have played. And it's arguably the second oldest instrument that we know to humanity after the voice. So it's a really ancient instrument. It's just a tube, basically, for all intents and purposes. You can find them, but traditionally, the Aboriginal people would make them, or they actually wouldn't make them. They'd find them made by termites out of eucalyptus. So termites, they'd find eucalyptus that had been hollowed out by these termites, and they would actually come upon it on their walkabout. They would find one that was hollow just the right way. They'd break it, clean off the mouth, and they'd play it there in ceremony. And in their creation story, they say that Creator, their creator, a version of Creator, made all of the universe, all the animals, all the beings out of a didgeridoo. It was out of that vibration, that primordial sound. And so what's really cool about this instrument is that it requires the person playing it and enables them to do something known as circular breathing, or I like to call spiral breathing, because it moves through time. Right. And this technique, if you sit down and check it out, it's the original looper, right? They were able to create this drone sound, this ongoing sound, almost like this infinite breath. So I want the audience to understand, you are pushing air out through the didgeridoo and breathing in through your nose, filling your lungs back up, and while the reservoir is in your mouth, pushing the air out. Very difficult technique to master. Yeah. But if you do it right and you can stay awake, you could play a note for 24 hours. You could go infinitely. Exactly. You have the original looper, man. Nothing needed but a hollow tube in your breath, which is pretty incredible. And as you're saying, just to clarify for the listeners, so you're keeping air is always in your cheeks. So if you think of a bagpipe, if most people have seen a bagpipe, there's a bellows, and that bellows is like the bladder that the bagpipe player has under their arm, and they're squeezing that, and that's keeping the air kind of pressure going out and making the drone sing. And then they're refilling it constantly by breathing and blowing that into the bladder and keeping it full at all times, but there's always pressure on the bladder, right? So in this case with the didge, that's happening all in your cheeks. And so the muscles of your cheeks are squeezing that air out while you sniff in at the same time. That's the new thing that we usually don't do in typical breathing. But what's incredible about this instrument is, there's all these health benefits, it turns out. There's actually been clinical studies showing that it's more effective than surgery for sleep apnea for anyone out there who snores. And it's fun. So you should definitely get a didge if you don't have one. And or just get a PVC tube, and put some beeswax at the end of it. And there's even a hoovery-doo if you YouTube that. It's
I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen those. I've seen those.
So anyways, going back to the looper. So it's been around for a long time. And what's really cool is that the technology then now fast forward, right, into taking fire, our ancestor, right, this ancient technology of fire that humans first have learned to cultivate. And now you take that fast forward to our little devices, all these computers and these chips, and, they're putting off heat just like fire. So I look at it as an evolution of fire when you think about it. It's that technology kind of fast forwarded. And so here I am with this technology where it enables me basically to take these sounds and to record them in the moment of the performance, to channel whatever's coming through, to lay it down, say, in a certain number of bars, a certain phrase, a musical expression, and then it will repeat that for me. And then I can layer another layer on top of that, and then another layer and another layer, and infinitely. And essentially then it becomes this new instrument where I'm basically then taking that instrument and acting like a producer, sound engineer, and an arranger, singer-songwriter, and I'm recomposing, arranging it as I perform with it. So I'm interacting with this new instrument with all these layers of sounds that I've made right there on the fly. And so there's this really beautiful element of, where you're not just a musician. You have to kind of really understand sound engineering to do it well. I mean, you could do it whatever, but to do it well, you really got to know how to mic things, how to EQ things, how to compress things, how to make it shine so that when you're up there, that actually translates and people aren't like, my goal whenever I'm doing this, by the way, is to really have the technology almost be invisible. Like, I don't want people even really to notice that that's happening. A lot of people are all like, oh, you're playing with backing tracks. And I'm like, no, actually I made all that. And so it's a really interesting thing for me is like, because for me, the most important thing is the connection to the audience, and connection to source. And so if I'm being that channel, like I was talking about, letting that river move through me, then the technology is just, I'm using this this kind of evolution of fire to weave these instruments, from our ancestors, from all these indigenous, all our First Nations, all the peoples that we all come from, wherever we came from, and then bringing that into the now, into the present moment, to help people kind of be more in the present. And that's really, I think, where the magic's at. So looping for me is almost a spiritual practice, I could say, I guess, when I think about it. And as I say this to you, it's really an invitation of how to work with the elements, and to bring them into this really fresh way in the present moment. So
well, let me jump in. I'm going to ask you a couple of difficult questions, but that are honest questions.
Please.
Did you start looping because you couldn't find other musicians to play with? Right? You know what I'm asking, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me tell you that quick story. It's hilarious. So a dear friend of mine and musical partner and brother, his name's Eric Zhang, and he and I were in a duo. We had a world music kind of duo band, and we did it all. We still used Ableton Live in the shows, but for effects and stuff. But we only used it as a mixer, and then we would basically play all these instruments live. He's also a multi-instrumentalist, an incredible master musician, and so we would just like create the band right there with like all our limbs holding it down, no looping. And basically what happened was Eric had to leave. He decided to go on sabbatical. He wanted to go back to Turkey and study some of the instruments that he's an amazing player on. And so he had to leave. And so he left and kind of, I was there kind of at this, like, okay, what do I do now? And sure enough, I get this call for this gig. And it's this big gig down at Desert Botanical Gardens in Phoenix and pays really well. And it's a major gig, like 21 nights in a row. Right. And I was like, oh, man, I got to do this gig. And they're like, yeah, we want to book you. Can you do this? And I'm like, well, let me see who I can book, who I can get to do it with me. And they're like, oh, no. We just want you. And I was like, you just want me to do it? And they're like, yeah. And so I literally had to think about how am I going to play for 21 nights in a row, 4 hours a night, 2,000 people walking through these gardens,
right,
and keep my vocal cords alive, and like, you know, through the winter, right, December. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? You know. So then literally I was like, I gotta figure out this looping thing. It's the only thing I thought. So I literally took the credit card, went down, bought the, you know.
What did you buy? What do you use?
Well, the first pedal I got for a looper, I looked everywhere, high and low, but the most robust pedal to date that I've found that is of build quality, you know, decent sound, not great sound, is the Boss RC300.
Yep.
It's a three, you know, it has 3 loopers basically built into one, and a basic little like mixer interface, but it's very simple, and it kind of just does what it does, and it does it, you know, well, mostly reliable. I've definitely pushed its limits, and I'm actually actively right now as we speak, like tonight before I got on this call, Eric's here, and we're actually working on my new rig, which is going to be using Ableton Live. It's a whole other story we can get into if you like, but I'm working on a prototype with this other guy who's designing a new MIDI controller that can control Ableton just like hardware. So it's kind of revolutionary.
With no delays.
With no delay. It's
see, now, okay, so for the audience, let me simplify this a little bit, which is this. So what Poranguí does is he'll play some music. He'll hit a record button. It'll be, I'm assuming it's a foot switch. He hits that. It starts to record. He gets to the end of the cycle or bar or the measure. He'll hit the button and stop recording, and then it'll start playing over, and that plays in a loop. Every time it gets to the end, it starts over. Then he is able to go to the next section, play a different instrument or the same instrument, play and accompany that which he just recorded, hit the foot switch again, start recording over that, and get to the end, stop recording, switch an instrument. Now you're hearing 2 of him playing against each other, and then he can move on and then continue the layer. And so you have a complete band in the end. And if you do it right, you can have as many loops playing on top of each other as you want. And it turns into this orchestra, this multi-piece band, and that's what looping is. And so you're hoping now. Okay, before we get to the break, how long is a standard arrangement for you live?
Oh gosh, it really can vary, but I would say anywhere from 5 minutes on the short end, anywhere to, I mean, I do almost like a DJ set where I can mix. Kind of take one element that keeps going and then switch into other ones and build into a whole new song.
Right.
So it's kind of seamless. So I create like ecstatic dance journeys, you know, for festivals and things like that, where I'll play right up next to DJs and they'll be like, "What? You just did that all live?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's."
And so technically, not even pause.
Yeah, I can just create exactly and just kind of keep layering and morphing the sounds and changing instruments so that just one piece goes into the next. Yeah, change the feel, go from like a 4/4 feel to like a 6/8, you know, and give it like a triplet or more tribal feel. Go into an ambient thing, breakdown. It's amazing. It's like sonic Play-Doh, if you will.
Oh, it's totally that. And it's also reflective of your mood too, as well, going into the performance. Wherever you are in that headspace is where this is going to go, and it will change organically from night to night. Now here's the next difficult question. Could you play in a band now? Or do you care about that?
I mean, you know, I love playing with other musicians. I mean, there's one thing, it's like looping is amazing, and there is no substitute for having a freaking band of amazing players who have big ears and are all really paying attention and can like go with you. Now, I will say this: I directed a 10-piece Brazilian band for 9-10 years. So I've put in my time directing and running bands. I've taught big community groups with batucada and like Brazilian ensembles because I've taught that for many years as a percussion. And I tell you what, it's amazing. I mean, the energy when I've got all those players and we're just tight and ripping through music and beats and whole audience is freaking out. Like there's just something that you never can. I mean, as much as the looping is amazing, like I can create some big sounds and definitely in big festival systems, like you're not missing the band, but there's something about like having all those players now.
But you're saying no is what you're saying. You don't need to go and play with the band. You got your yah-yahs out. It's okay to say it.
No. Well, check it out. Let me just say this. Here's the caveat, right? Here's the catch. is that when I had my big band, right, and I'm playing with these guys, because I love improvisation. You know, I live like Bobby McFerrin. I don't know if you know that guy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so Bobby's a huge mentor of mine and a friend, and you know I've gotten to go and study with him actually, and he's like, I'm all about improvisation. He's been a real inspiration for that for me. And so like, I hate to do things that I do like, I don't want to repeat stuff, man. It's like, for me, that's dead. And so you got to understand. So I used to rehearse this band, right? And everyone knew all these pieces and all these licks and all the breaks and stuff. But then I'd get on stage and I'd surprise everybody, and they'd all be like, "Oh crap, you know, Porangui's gonna, you know, he's good doing that thing."
Right.
And I watch their faces get a little like, "Oh no, now what?" So everyone's like, eyes are on me. And now the thing is like with a big band, it's like you're trying to hang a hard left with like an aircraft carrier. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so you got to really make sure, okay, everybody, are you like, you ready? Here we go. Like, and you know what I mean? You try to keep no one from falling off the aircraft carriers. You're turning. Now, when I'm looping, like what I do is like, I can really respond, man, to the energy in the audience. So if I see the crowd is feeling something or something's just going, you know, I need to make a hard turn or change something, I can just do that. And it's so fast. And I can respond to the energy so much faster than than if I were in a band. And I think that's something that I was able to do in a duo with my brother, my friend Eric Zhang I was telling you about, because he has huge ears and he's just intuitive like that. But it's rare you can find guys that can all hang on when you're moving like that, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my dance with it, if that makes sense.
Now we've got about 90 seconds before the break. Okay. Now, what about do you have like a hit song? In that, do you have a song that people expect to hear from you, and that is in some kind of, you know, format and idea going in with written lyrics and a melody that is written?
Yes and no. I would almost say more no now. Like I'll do a couple like little covers, like things that people are a little more familiar with. Every once in a while I'll bust out something like that, just because people need that sometimes to get like, you know, okay, this isn't too foreign to me. But
Freebird, do they ever?
Yeah, I've definitely had guys ask for Freebird for sure. Oh man, but I always, man, my thing is really letting it be channeled and let it just be really fresh. So almost to the point where it's like I want the audience to really create it with me. It's really about the co-creation and not like a spectator sport, if that makes sense. Like sure. I tell people that I'll like right in the middle, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to show you guys a hand clap. Help me out here. Or I'll teach people like how to make a sound with their mouth or whatever. And I'll loop that. I'll get that in the sound. So it's part of like what generates this new song.
Do you play any guitar?
I do. Yeah. I also play guitar, acoustic, more kind of like classical style. Not so much electric, but yeah, no, I love guitar. Although I leave it at home nowadays because with all the gear that I already bring, the charango ends up being my go-to because it's so small and it can go on the plane.
Right.
Yeah, it's practical kind of thing.
So, well, let's take a break right here. This is okay. We got the music side out. Don't worry, everybody. They're hoping that I'm done talking about music. You should see. They are literally tweeting pictures of the RC300 right now, the boss.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It is funny. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Porangui, and we are talking music, but we're going to talk about ET. We're going to talk about contact. We're going to talk about disclosure. We're going to talk about what it's like to be woke in 2019, like he is, and how all of us can affect change on this planet. It's going to be a great conversation tonight. Stay right there. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Come join us for the 2019 Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles at the LAX Hilton. This year, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Chariots of the Gods with Eric Von Daniken, and I'll be hosting the panel with Eric, Linda Moulton Howe, Jason Martell, Billy Carson, and join George Norrie, Nassim Haramein, Robert Schock, Daniel Brinkley, Grant Cameron, Julia Mossbridge, and another 50 speakers who will be presenting at the 2019 Conscious Life Expo. Just go to ConsciousLifeExpo.com for tickets and a full conference schedule, or click on the CLE banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Well, we are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Porangui, world musician, Awoke. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. I do want to say that in my little opening rant tonight, or at the top of the show, I mentioned my boss at Bell Labs, Chance Schultz. And you never know who's listening to the show. And I got an email from Diane, and she sent me his obituary. And there it is right there. Chance lived to the age of 83, passed away in 2013. And right here in his obituary, it says that he was a drafting supervisor at Bell Labs, AT&T, from 1956 to 1985. So he retired. I thought that he would right after I left Bell Labs. But there it is right there, Chance Schultz. Thank you, Diane, for sending that to me. And there you go. See, I respond to email. I even do it during the show. So, Poranguí, if you write me an email right now, I might write you back during the show. During the show.
That's like ultimate multitasking right there.
Yeah, you know, I love it so much. The audience is so big, and I really, you never know who's listening out there, right? You just never know. Like right now, if you mention your 8th grade music teacher right now on the air, I'm going to get email about it to forward to you. I knew her, right?
You know. Well, you know, you were saying people were already messaging about the RC300. Let me tell you guys, you should look up this guy. Look up Data Looper, DATA Looper. That's the prototype that I'm working on. He just did an Indiegogo that was super successful, and he's making these pedals now that can control Ableton like a hardware looper. It's revolutionary. So that's the cutting edge, basically. So if anyone wants to see something that's really badass, I really recommend you check that out.
Yeah, the whole trick is, and I actually got out of. Okay, so let me explain something. There's a thing that goes on that we mentioned earlier. It's called delay. And the delay that Porangui and I are talking about is the delay of a reaction from when you hit a switch or turn something on and off with musical gear and then going back through a computer. It's not instantaneous, right? It's not. There's a delay that happens there. And we've been fighting that stupid delay no matter what in the music industry for a very long time, trying to overcome it. I had that problem here. I would play our commercials through a program with a computer, and there was a delay. By the time I clicked on the mouse and everything happened, and then boom, and then it decides to play, sometimes it's a few seconds. And plus it's a computer. Sometimes it could take even longer or not happen at all. So I switched to a hardware solution, and I've got a Tascam sampler, and now I've got a keyboard. I could almost hold it up to the camera. That's got soft buttons all over it, and instead of triggering samples and sounds off of a computer, I'm going straight off of a RAM chip, and so it's just like that. You know, it's cool, man. And I have that tactile feel too as well, which is important.
Well, that's the thing, right? So that's kind of the issue too with Ableton. And for those listening, you know, Ableton is a software, kind of like a digital audio workstation, a DAW, kind of like Logic or Pro Tools. But it's designed for using for live performance. It's really robust.
It's kind of like GarageBand. I would say Ableton Live is kind of like GarageBand.
You know, some guys are going to be really angry at you for saying that, but I'll go along with that.
Yeah. Or what was the other one? The one that was before Ableton that was just like it. Vegas. Oh man, I'm trying to think of the. There was another one that I used to use too as well back in the day. But yeah, Ableton Live is an industry standard now. I didn't think it would get to where it is, but it's.
Oh man, it's evolved, you know, and so now this is the thing: is that it's like Lego. Think of Legos, right? Everyone knows Legos. So imagine Legos for performing and sound engineering. Like it gives you all the blocks, the individual little like blocks of devices and things that can control and do anything to sound. And so it's really up to the person using it and how creative they are and how skilled they want to be or how long they want to study YouTubeversity to basically build a rig, you know, and mangle or create sounds that never been created or, you know, take live sounds or DJ with sounds. it's pretty robust, and the latest version 10 is pretty phenomenal. Now the thing is what we were just going back to what we were saying is there's no tactile interface. Like I like to touch something. Like you, I'm a very tactile person, and I don't want to look at a laptop and look like I'm checking email when I'm performing, right? And that's what's kind of cool about this guy, this musician from San Luis Obispo. His name's Vince Simo, and man, we got connected through another mutual friend musician. And he was like, dude, you guys need to meet. He's got this Indiegogo thing, and he's building this prototype. He's a musician who also knows how to code and program. Mm-hmm. And he basically got into the API, the back end of Ableton, and hacked it basically to where he got it a MIDI controller that could work with the little looper device that Ableton comes with. But it's unreliable. I tried using it, tried to map it to like MIDI controllers, but it never was reliable to take to the stage. And so he hacked it and got it to where it's actually the latency is low, the delay, aka latency, is down to where it's almost imperceptible, and that it actually does what you think it's going to do, almost like hardware. Because that's what I like about the hardware pedal, right? Like the RC is, it just does the one thing and it does it well. And Ableton is like a beast. It can do a million things. And so if it could easily crash or something could go wrong, So it doesn't eliminate, obviously, the possibility of crashing. So you need a second laptop as a backup if you're
or that RC300 is still going to every gig.
Exactly. Yeah. You got something so that you can, worst case scenario, you can throw something down and the show goes on.
Right.
But so that's what I'm basically working on, is this new rig that will basically give me the ability, though, to do so much more than I've been able to do with just hardware. But I'm with you. I mean, there's definitely something to be said about hardware, the reliability of it, Yeah, that's huge.
Now, there's something else that I find interesting about your music, and I'm just wondering, because improvisation is 99% of it.
Totally.
In that you're going to layer these ideas, and it's coming out from the soul at that moment. Do you ever? I'm thinking of like a comedy show. Take this in the right way. Where in an improvisational comedy setting, people are yelling out things. Cantaloupe, right? And now they've got to crack a joke about cantaloupes, right?
Yeah.
Does anybody ever say anything to you or suggest from the audience enlightenment, Anunnaki, right? I don't know, and where you take the spirit of an improv into a direction at that moment.
Absolutely. I mean, I love doing that. So for instance, I just did this run of shows again at the Desert Botanical Gardens. They actually just had me back for another run. It had been 5 years since I did that one I just told you about, when I learned how to loop. So I've been doing this like 5-6 years looping specifically, and so I go back there, and it's kind of an audience. It's a thing where people are constantly walking through the gardens, and it's all lit up with candles, 50,000 candles at night. It's called the Luminarias, not to be confused with the Illuminati, right? And so you're hanging out there in the desert, and people are coming through, different audiences, kind of cycling, and so it's more concert style. Kind of I tell stories about the instruments, because a lot of festival shows and other shows that I do, I'm more like I'm just building music, and I don't really talk as much to the audience. I don't stop between songs as much. And so it was cool. So I would tell people, I'd be like, hey, I don't have a set list. So what do y'all want to do? We can go up, we can go down, we can go outside, or we can go inside or inside out. What do you like? And often someone goes, inside out.
I love that. I love that. I'd be in the back row, DMT.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And now, and so let's take a right-hand turn here, and you have had a lot of spiritual journeys. Wink, wink. Okay. Now, with those journeys, there is you before them and you after as a musician. How has it changed you?
Well, that's a really interesting question. So how has it changed me? I mean, gosh, in so many ways. I guess there's, from the time I was very little, I was already around ceremony from really early on. Gosh, I mean, I sat up in my first temazcal, which is a purification ceremony, when I was about 7 years old. And, just kind of being in that kind of closed, dark environment and exposed to, the elements in a very extreme way. and just not being claustrophobic, not being able to be claustrophobic. You could be claustrophobic, but no one's really paying attention to you in that way. But taking myself into those really deep places. And I would say they've always shown me, and when I say they, I'm referring to the spirit realm, to the guides, if you will. Maybe some people call them angels. Maybe some people call them, helper spirits, or, ascended masters. Whoever you want to talk to, I think there's a lot of ways to talk about these things. But for me, they've been ancestors and guides who come to me, and they've shown themselves. And a lot of them, there's different ones, and different ones that have had different. Several of them are musicians, in fact, and some of them come from Africa, some of them come from South America. And they've played through me. There's a level of that I witnessed, and I started to tap into early on when I was learning how to play ceremonial drumming for ceremony. And so the thing I was learning, especially in those contexts when we drum for ceremony, one of those contexts was in the Umbandaime church in Brazil. And in that tradition, which it kind of has its roots all the way back to Candomblé, all the way back to Ifa. Now we're talking West Africa,
right.
Where a lot of the slaves came from. And it's been mapped into Christianity, Catholicism. So you have this really interesting syncretic meshing happening there. So saints are mapped to it, kind of like, so certain saints will represent certain orishas, which is like their gods and goddesses, that represent different elements. And so it's a spiritual tradition. So it's very much about divination, about being able to see into the future and be able to communicate with spirits, being able to predict what's going to come, being able to enter into a trance state and even possession, which that kind of can scare people here up in the north, but it's something that's been around in various traditions since recorded history, right?
Well, let me ask you this. You just said from a very young age. Take me back to that point. You weren't participating in the ceremony. You were the drumming guy, right? How old were you?
It depends. There's a lot of stories here. There's a lot of levels to it. So when I was, my first kind of drumming and ceremony happened in my during my teens.
Okay.
Where I was allowed to then actually play officially, if you will. But I was already participating and being in the ceremonies when I was even younger than that, as I was talking about, with the Temazcal. Temazcal is, for those who don't know, it's similar to the Inipi ceremony that the Lakota have up here in the north, or the Sioux tribes, which was like a sweat lodge. And so in that ceremony, for those who are listening, it's a very simple ceremony in that it's about using just the elements. You're not working with any type of psychotropic, plants or entheogenic plants like that. You're actually activating those molecules within yourself. So you're releasing DMT within yourself by going into a state where you're sweating, kind of like you would in a sauna, but very different in that you're working directly with the elements. You've fast, your body's already in a water fast. You're already kind of under stress. And so as a result, when you go into those rounds with the song and the drum, you're kind of taken into this visionary space, and you're in total darkness, and all you see is the glowing of the rocks and stones, right, that are brought in from the fire.
Yeah, see, I don't want anybody to imagine you at the age of 13 with psychedelic drugs and a drum. That's not what, right? That's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, well, just to be clear.
To be clear.
Just to be clear. So, but then later on with the drumming, like I was saying, in the Umbandaime church, for instance, they work with daime. And so in that context, they will also layer in a daime. Daime, for those who don't know, is in Brazil is fully, recognized and respected by the government. It's not an illegal substance, but it is a plant that it's similar to what people know in Peru and in kind of that part of South America as ayahuasca, which is actually two different plants. There are the two main plant constituents that make up this brew, an MAO inhibitor combined with another plant that also has high levels of DMT, with another plant that works with that together, basically to take you, activate you into a visionary state, also to heal the body, to heal you from cancer, from numerous things. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It can heal depression, PTSD. There's all these new studies coming out. So that's kind of just to kind of draw the parallel. So for instance, in that context, they might work with that medicine in addition to just the music and the dance, which already is the medicine, if you get what I'm saying. So that's the main thing, though. In these trance traditions, they don't historically always work with necessarily an entheogenic, substance, plant, or plants or other helpers, but just working with just the rhythms. And this is kind of what I wanted to point out is, for me, learning early on is, as a drummer, the drummers we're given a very special blessing, and they do it a kind of a ritual where they close our head, which basically means we can't receive a spirit, so we don't get possessed. Our job there is to hold it down. We're kind of the foundation of the ceremony to drum for the ceremony, so that others can receive spirits if that is to happen or not happen, and so that the whole ceremony, kind of the container of the ceremony, can happen. And so the rhythms that we play, and this gets into a very ancient technology, are specifically designed to get us out of our mind and get us into our body and to connect us to spirit, to source. And that's very intentional, and it's a very important thing because it's a way to pray. It's a way to open this portal, and when it's done right and the right people are holding that space, you don't open a portal and let beings that we don't want to let in. You're bringing in good beings, if you will, so that good healing can happen. And there's usually a focus of this. It's not like we just want to, pop this, this dimensional portal open and bring in all kinds of really, not, kind of a dangerous thing, if you will. It's done really intentionally, usually for a healing, usually for some specific rites. Maybe a rites of passage, maybe it's being done because of, people are being joined, or there's various things, maybe we're focusing on some kind of specific thing that wants to be done, if you will, for the ceremony. And so, yeah, just to kind of give that perspective. And so the drumming and the drummers are kind of essential. We're like the motor of this thing. And of course the singers, which could also be the drummers or could be other people. So that's kind of like, just to give you like an orientation of that. But yeah, from early on, that's been part of the tradition, that I come out of and is informed me. So going back to your first question of, did this change me musically? Absolutely. I think whenever I perform, whether that is in a concert hall or performing arts center, or if it's at a festival, or if it's just at a ceremony, it's done. I do so with utmost respect and reverence for all beings, both seen and unseen, and I do so always but really tuning into what is happening, what's the energy here. Like if I'm in a festival where everyone's really wasted, or really high, or everyone's, whatever it is, my job, I always feel, is I'm conducting I'm master of ceremonies here. My job is to tune in to what needs to happen right here. Like, is there kind of a vampiric energy going on here?
Right.
Is this like, Bud Light is sponsoring this and it's just like another way to like suck energy out of people?
Yep.
Or is this about really like, what needs to happen here? So I'll shift my set, my music, my sound to really shape shift and meet people so that I can try to create a cohesive field and really try to support, like like you read about my bio, it's about supporting the well-being of all beings, for the greatest good of all humans and all beings, not just humans, two-leggeds, but all creatures. Because, man, I feel like that's so important. So much music has really turned into kind of I hate to say the word, but kind of a prostitution. It's kind of like, it's entertainment to kind of distract you while this other thing is going on behind the scenes, which, you've been in the entertainment business, it's about selling alcohol, or it's about, other things.
And people go there to entertain themselves too with different illicit materials. And you're absolutely right. Where there is a lot of open minds and consciousnesses that are running around that are also vulnerable. And when that door is open, the energy could be focused in a very bad, unpositive way. Totally. You are able to lasso it and rope it and bring it back in and get it back into the masses that are there, focused and into another direction, one of enlightenment.
That's really the intention. Always. It's like, that's kind of my guiding light, if you will, like where we need to go right now. Do I need to make this, like, do I need to lighten the energy? Do I need to take us a little layer deeper? Or, and just kind of really reading the audience. So it's really about that connection. That's why I was saying, like, it's, the technology is, I want that to be invisible. It's just enabling me, basically empowering me to be able to use these tools to move that energy in a massive way. You know,
are you ever tempted to take everybody into a 3-day nightmare with lightning bolts?
You know,
because you could, right? I mean,
yeah, you know, there's a lot of power that can be wielded.
A lot of power.
But you gotta be. There's a lot of responsibility. You know, I feel a lot of responsibility with it. So no, I don't go there unless, you know, every once in a while, when like, you know, the one times when I'm like, all right, I need to do something radical here, is when people are like really like treating you like background music, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
When people are just like ignoring what's going on here and they're just totally oblivious. Like unfortunately I've had to stoop down and play my fair share of corporate shows, right?
Yep.
And that's the target audience, man, where it's like, okay, these guys are so dense and just so not tuned in. They're just worried about, you know, how to impress the person sitting next to them or whatever. And that's, you know, I kind of love that kind of challenge. You know, it's like, all right,
I'll show them.
You know, and it's not so much like, it's like, how can I get these guys to like actually, you know, tune in a little notch deeper? Because I get something, you know, I learned this early on. I went to school with the Jesuits. I went to a Jesuit high school when I first came, you know, when I was here in the United States, first came here in Arizona, and I learned something from the Jesuits. The Jesuits knew, and this is something that is really curious about them, whether you're Catholic, Christian or not, is that the Jesuits, if you look historically where they were around the planet, they're very strategic, man. They knew that if they could influence the influencers, if they could be close to the wealthiest and most powerful people on the planet, that they could actually change things. They could affect and impact things. And so they would do that. They were always the advisors to like whoever was in power, right? And they were also the first ones on the scene, the first ones to come over and to start to translate the languages of the indigenous people, you know, in South America, in the first colonies. They were the first ones in China, the first ones to do this. So really strategic. And so I learned from the Jesuits that if I want to be able to impact the world on all levels, I've got to also be able to reach these people. And so for me, when I'm playing in those kind of settings, it's like, okay, how can I activate them? So then what do? I bust out a didgeridoo. And then I don't just bust out a didgeridoo, but I get off the stage. I'll walk off the stage right out into the audience with my wireless on there and just blast them open, man. And people, they don't know what to do. They kind of like, some people freak out. They're like, wait, he's not staying in the little box that we put him in. And you know, so for me, I love breaking the barrier of that audience, you know, perspective, you know, a stage, invisible kind of like line that you're not supposed to cross. That's my favorite line to break and make people really freak out.
Well, you know, there's something else here too. Oh, somebody I remembered now, the original looping software was Acid.
Oh, right.
You remember Acid?
I do, on the PC, yeah.
Yeah. Acid, which was bought by Sony, and then Ableton was running at the same time and competitive, but it was Acid that got me into looping. Acid, everybody, is the name of the program, the name of the software.
But can they quote you on that?
And this is the other thing that I've respected, not only about you, but those that are able to play the non-traditional instruments and the tribal instruments and percussive and whatever it may be, it's some of the most difficult, but difficult to learn and to master. And plus, you got to find them. You know, right. There's that part, but it's the most difficult to play, and you've always got some doofus in the audience that is like, oh man, you know, I can do that. Well, you know what? You can't. It is the polyrhythms that are going on, the technique, the years of practice, and to attempt to master these instruments is very, very difficult, and it's not easy to do. It's one of the. Do you have to go out and visit different countries and get to the original players of these indigenous instruments to learn the craft?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of part of it for me, actually, that I think is an important piece is connecting to where the instruments come from and the people and the stories, right? And the kind of like knowing the creation myth of the didge, you know, knowing like these nuances about these instruments, it really informs the music, because I feel like part of what happens a lot of times, and it's kind of an interesting thing, music, it's cultural appropriation is kind of a buzzword, right? It's a big deal right now, and you see it happen all the time. And in music, it happens the most probably, and it's probably the most accepted, because music by its nature is a conversation, right? People have been influencing each other and trading sounds and ideas, musical ideas, since before recorded history. So right. I feel like it's kind of the most accepted. And saying that, it's very important to not just like okie dokie it, because look at like a great example, right? Deep Forest, right? Nobody knew those guys. They took samples of the Pygmies and made millions of dollars on those records. And the Pygmies never saw any of that money, right? And now there you have an example where they sampled it. They recorded their actual voices. Now you have examples, of course, if they played an instrument that the Pygmies played, but they were playing it and they recorded it, then it's not as big a deal. But do you know what I'm saying? There's kind of a political piece there that's really important to note. And so for me, I really find it key. And whenever I can engage my audience with and kind of talk about the history and the story behind it, or if I do that, off of stage, I really love doing that, because I feel it's really important to share why this instrument exists, why this tradition exists, why is it that it makes you feel this way? Like, why is it when you play a didge, just to use that example again, you feel something energetically shift. And I don't care who you are. I mean, you see it, even in animals can detect it, dogs and cats, like they feel it. There's an energetic shift in that vibration that's moving something.
Let me jump in right there. We got to take a break right there. We'll pick up right where we are living. I promise. I promise. We'll go right back to Didgeridoo after this short break. Our guest tonight, Porangui. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. And last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously. Go Beckley Teppy. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Porangui, world musician, fully awoke. We're going to talk a little ET now. We've got to go into that direction, but before we do, check this out. Do you like the music right there?
Oh, yeah.
That's live. That's real musicians, right? If you know what I mean. There's something about that that stirs the soul. And it's looping. I don't want anybody to get confused here. Looping is not playing samples. It's a real performance that is being captured in real time. It's live artistic things that are happening live right in front of you, and there's a big difference there. And there's something, and I think we've gotten away from that somewhat, the live aspect of music, the performance, because it's so easy and I'm not saying it's not creative. You can go in with samples and create some pretty amazing stuff. Some Beastie Boys albums out there that I think are some of the best things that were ever done. But there's something about that. You need to have the live performance captured. That is a completely different thing than firing off a sample with a keyboard.
Totally. No, I agree with that a lot. I think there's something about the energy that is caught when it's made right there versus something you sample that's actually from another time and place, if that makes sense. It's kind of like that's kind of dead. But you can make it alive again by recontextualizing it, by bringing it to the present moment, like the way a DJ does. You're playing a track that was already recorded, and you're kind of recontextualizing it and making it relevant, like fresh again in a way. But it'll never be as fresh as what's made right there, like with the sonics of the room, with the people who are breathing there, with the guy yelling in the back, with the other lady who dropped her drink. Like there's something about all of that, right? And the risk, this is kind of the element too I think people miss. There's something about when you have to take a risk, because when you get up there and you're with those instruments, and those instruments are living, breathing kind of beings, and some of them, they're not in tune or whatever. They're having a bad day or you're having a bad, like all of that, there's a risk. And people can feel that energy that something could go wrong at any given moment. And it's all about your professionalism, I think. The real masters are the ones who can take those mistakes, right? And when something goes horribly wrong all of a sudden and turn it into a success and flip it on its head. And that's going back to Bobby McFerrin, man. He is a master at that, who can take a whole audience and just literally make them part of the instrument, make them part of the looper. And I feel like that's one of the things I love to do as well in my performances. And, you know, when in my teaching too, I lead retreats as well, where I help people really access their own musical expression and creative expression, and whether they're musicians or not. And for me, it's really about getting them connected into the ability to be in the present moment, to get into that flow state. Because when we can do it, no matter what our walk of life is, you know, it really prepares us to face the uncertainty of life. Because that's the one thing we all know, is the only thing that's certain is that nothing is certain.
Just the last note.
Just the last. That's it.
It's not everything else. It's the last one you played.
Yeah, and what's the next one?
Right.
Don't worry about 2 notes from now. And actually, Bobby McFerrin says this. Bobby says, look, improvisation is actually not so hard. He's like, all you got to do is worry about the next note, not the note. Not even the last note. He's like, don't worry about the last note, because it could have been a whatever note. But he's like, the next note. You just focus on that, not 2 notes from now and not 3 notes ago. As long as you're there in that present moment working on the next one, he's like, you'll go somewhere. You'll go somewhere, and hopefully that place is beautiful. He's like, sometimes I go places and it's kind of whack. But, you know, he's like, but the thing is, the more you do it and you kind of exercise that muscle of improvisation, he's like, it gets easier. And actually, you start to really cultivate this ability to get on your surfboard, you know, proverbial surfboard,
right,
and go anywhere and create amazing things. So I really encourage anybody. This is good for anybody, because it applies to everything in life, you know, and it really makes you flexible, makes you the neuroplasticity in your mind, you know, more activated, keeps you younger, keeps you more, you know, agile. So I really I can't stress it enough, man. Everybody really needs to try to improvise with whatever they're doing.
Rita and I last month went to a flamenco concert, right? Dancers.
Yeah.
And what most people don't know when it comes to flamenco, that's 100% improvised. Yeah. And so you've got the dancer is improvising, the band is reacting to the dancer. They need to lock in subconsciously, right? And when it is good, it is about as good as anything that you can go and see live, because they are in the zone. You get in the zone, you know, and you can feel it coming, and everybody is locked on, man. It is a beautiful thing to see when improvisation is correct. It's just so wonderful. Man. All right, now, I just got a tweet.
Okay.
And this is a pretty interesting one, in that you're going to love this. Do you have any night watching spots in Arizona where you live to go and check out activity in the sky?
Wow, that's a great question. So Sedona is kind of a hot spot. Where I live is in the Red Rocks here, Sedona, and it's a huge, you know, planetarium observatory here. So there's lots of that, and there's actually a lot of people here who really have seen a lot here. I personally, though, my spot, if I were to tell you the spot, which is kind of a hidden spot, but it's down in southwestern Arizona, near the border, just past the San Carlos Apache Res, in this little place called Eden, Arizona. And there's some hot springs there that are really magical, and that have been there since back Geronimo used to soak in these waters. Really, really amazing sacred place, sacred land. And it's private property, so, you know, you have to come on a retreat or with one of the groups to go there. But I tell you what, the most activity I've ever seen in the sky has been there. And I've had multiple instances with groups of people, all like, you see that? Yeah, you saw that. Like, we all saw it. and just incredible phenomena there. And that's I would say, if someone wanted to know my spot, that's the one.
Share with me, down in Eden, I can only imagine you've had, you know, literally hundreds of things that you have seen down there. But because when it jumps, right? We know this, right? But is there one event, one sighting that just stands out above all the others?
Yeah, there was one night in particular where we're all sitting here, probably a group of about 5 to 8 people, and we were sitting in one of the pools. It was known as the goddess pool, or the source pool. It's the top of these pools, and it's amazing. And you're out there. I mean, ain't nothing out there. I mean, it's like totally open sky, and you're sitting in this beautiful hot, water that's bubbling up out of the earth right there.
Oh, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for trouble. Okay, so what happened?
So we're sitting there, and man, literally it was just like these balls of light, and we had about 4 of them, and they just go zoop, 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 and they just like appear, like no like passing by, they just like appear. And we're all sitting there just like, oh, this is it. Like, and we're watching these lights, and they're hanging out there very steady. And, everyone's like, yeah, you see that. Yeah. It's like, pinch me. And we're watching this, and this goes on for probably a good 5 to 8 minutes. And then just like that, shoop, 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 they disappear.
What color were they?
They were like an amber.
Right.
It was like an amber light, I would say, closest thing to amber I could think of. And just steady, like a steady glow. And then guess what? This is the really trippy part. About 8 minutes passes by or so, if that. And all of a sudden we see these F-16s jetting around, like kind of scramble, like going back and forth across the sky, right where those lights were.
Right.
And we're watching them. We're like, oh,
right.
This is wow. Right. That was mind boggling. That one, to this day, that's probably the most incredible ones where we're just like, yeah, what
were you take me to that moment? Were you guys talking about hoping to see something? Were you consciously making an attempt to connect before it happened?
We were all just kind of holding space, just like really in awe and yeah, it was like a moment of silence. Like no one was speaking really a word while it was, other than the initial, like, you all see that? And then we just were just kind of holding space. It was one of those moments too, where like time kind of froze. It felt like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like
I
literally, you could hear the trickle of the water, like seeping up out of the ground, like into the pool where we were. And it was just, everyone's just there in this, just feeling like, oh yeah, these are our relatives, we're not alone.
And
is the Star Nation.
And thinking about it now, is there any doubt that was in response to you, that they were saying hello? It was a wink. It was a drive-by.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel the space that everyone was in. So we had just finished, when that all happened, we had just finished a retreat there. We used to host these retreats out at Eden Hot Springs where we'd bring out various speakers. I don't know if you ever heard of David Wolf.
Of course. You were hanging out with David Wolf?
Yeah.
I want to hang out with you.
Yeah, he's an old friend. He used to run these retreats out there where we would also work with him and then other people, where we'd bring out different speakers, like, various people from Daniel Pinchbeck, different authors and writers.
Right on.
Yeah, really cool people, really, really neat, kind of forward-thinking people. And they'd come out to Eden because it's an amazing place. And we do like heavy talks. We do music. I played for people in the big pool, which is like this. It's the largest outdoor body of water, bigger than an Olympic-sized pool in all the Southwest, maybe in the country, that is heated naturally. And it's basically like a massive float tank. It's amazing. And so you're sitting out there just under the galaxy, looking at the Milky Way floating on your back, in this giant float tank. And then I'm playing music to people. It's one of my favorite places to play music. And by the way, clothing is optional. Usually everyone's naked.
Right.
For those out there, I hope that doesn't freak anyone out. But it's amazing. So my favorite gig is, I like to joke about this because, people used to tell you in school where you learn how to speak to a public audience. They'd be like, oh, visualize everyone's naked. And so the funniest thing for me is playing music for a pool full of naked people. And I'm like, wait, I can't use that visualization. This is kind of funny. But it's incredible, and we have the sub set up, so they're sending these sub frequencies into the water, which just is incredible. You get to experience. I think some of my best music is there because I'm so tuned into the land there, and obviously the star people are super activated there, and getting to play music, in water that's coming right out of the earth like that,
Have you when you go through an experience like that, have you made contact? Have you done a communication with yourself?
Just psychically, just kind of feeling that connection.
Yes.
Yeah. For me, it feels like, for instance, when that happened. So we just finished one of those retreats. We were it was like some of the staff, like kind of the crew, that were there at the end and just having our hangout night, like before we were all going to part our ways. And, I was very deep in a meditative space. Like I totally, felt this presence, felt this connection. It very much felt like there was a connection. They were responding to us because we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody else around, kind of a thing. So it felt very much like there was a reason why they chose to appear to us right there, at that time. And I personally felt like it was just, for me, in my own trajectory, it felt very much like this reminder that we are not alone, A, and B, to trust. That there's a lot of shifts happening right now on the planet, and there's a lot of fear around those shifts and these changes that we are part of, and that also co-creation with. We're in this dialogue, and I feel like my personal hit in that moment was like, it is okay. This is all unfolding as it needs to. Continue to do the work that you're doing, because that is helping this greater plan unfold.
And for the skeptics out there that are listening to this that just don't get it, the only thing that will solve the issue for them is to have that moment happen when something appears on command, because it happens all the time. But they haven't witnessed it, right? And so they just think this is we have mental issues, right, or whatever. And it's with 8 people there, and then the F-16s rolling through. Right. We were kind of like, there was like no doubt. Like that was kind of like, for me, you could be skeptical, like, oh, maybe it was a flare. So it was like, no, it was clear as it could ever be. It was what it was. We were out in 29 Palms, Joshua Tree, right in the middle of the desert. And we got about, 10, 15 of us together, and we're out on this patio. Out in I'm literally in the middle of the desert, by the way, nothing around us. And somebody says, hey, man, it's about 10 o'clock at night, dark, nothing but dark desert around us. Hey, man, wouldn't it be cool, man, if a UFO just showed up? And at that exact instant, not 10 minutes, right? I mean, right then, out in the blackness of the desert, this white ball shot off of the desert floor, straight up, straight line, pew, into the stars, and disappeared, and it lasted about 2 seconds. Right on command.
Wow.
Right? So the next day, Porangui, the next day, I walk out of the cabin, and I look out across the desert, just trying to get my bearings where this thing was. And there is nothing there, man. Nothing but cactus all the way to the mountains. And I'm just looking, wow, that was cool. But again, bring a skeptic out at that moment when something like that happens. So, and that's how you deal with them. And that's the only thing that they will understand. It's you know what I mean?
I'm with you. They got to have the experience, I think, themselves. It's one of those things, right? It's like once you've had that experience, because like I've always believed, just knowing what I know about cosmology and understanding astrophysics and understanding how big the universe, what we're dealing with here. I mean, Carl Sagan, right, would say it the best. It's like just the sheer size of what we're dealing with. The likelihood of us being the only life in the whole universe is highly unlikely.
Well, and what Carl Sagan used to say, if he was around today with what we now know, he would even take that whole mindset way out to another level. He used to say billions and billions, right? Well, now he would say trillions and trillions. It's a whole nother party. Our Milky Way has got, 100 billion planets. Back when Carl Sagan was alive, we were wondering if there was one.
Right. Let alone if there was water outside of the Earth, right?
Now we found clouds of water floating around in space. But yeah, and what do you think ultimately is going on with the connection and with consciousness and with the ability to go to these other dimensions, not only with ayahuasca and DMT, but through ceremony or through meditation? And science is now proving that this is real too. But with the things like the orange orbs that you have seen and the things that are going on now, is ET trying to send us a message? Is there something going on that eventually the man isn't going to be able to deny anymore?
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's a huge can of worms. The one, I think for me, what I feel, there's kind of like what I know, and then there's like what I feel intuitively. And ultimately, I feel, and it doesn't, neither of those really matter, if that makes sense. Like I feel, because ultimately it's going to come back to, and it all comes back to a really simple teaching that I think you can find it in all our spiritual traditions, no matter whether they're indigenous, all the way to any of your classic, the major religions of the world. They're all trying to help us remember one basic thing, and that's how to be a better relative. They're all trying to teach us how to be a better relative. And I don't just mean a relative to your own kin or to even your own species, but how to be a better relative to all things, right? And I feel that ultimately, as human beings, the invitation that we have right now, and that has been on our the offering, the invitation that's been on our front step, if you will, our whole existence, has been inviting us to step into our real role and kind of claim our role as the light bearers, as the keepers of the fire and the earth stewards. We are shepherds of this earth, this beautiful little jewel of a planet that we have here. We've been gifted this. And whether we're coming from a hybrid, DNA that's part alien or not, I mean, at the end of the day, this is kind of the thing I think is important, because I feel people get almost too caught up in that and they miss what's really important, which is how do we show up as better relatives right now, using what we've got right now, and actually be able to show up in a good way and steward this next shift, which is happening very fast, right? We're accelerating, as we all know, to this singularity. Kurzweil talks about and other people talk about, where we're having this merger happening. This technology is rushing, right? And here, me as an artist, trying to navigate this and using technology as part of my tool, of my instruments. And it's like, how do we learn to live and be in right relation with fire? And I say fire, like I was talking about earlier, it's technology, which is fire. And so how do we balance and work with fire so that we use it to illuminate the darkness as opposed to incinerate everything around us? And so I think it's a really powerful moment. And so these teachers, and there's various forms of this technology that's here to teach us, including all of these amazing plants. It's no coincidence. I hope people get this. It's not a coincidence that we have receptor sites in our brains that allow us to work with these plants, right? There's a reason. It's a key and a lock, man. The key and the lock fit perfectly with DMT, right? With psilocybin, with all of these various molecules. I mean, there's numerous ones that open up our ability to perceive beyond what is just on the surface. And now it's kind of ironic that the coolest science that exists is the science that deals with the stuff that's hard to measure, that isn't on the surface, right? We're talking quantum, we're talking things like that.
Right.
Right? The stuff that is super mundane and just can measure the surfaces of stuff is the stuff that's been dominating kind of the popular, all the power institutions that are around us. And so it's very limited, right? It's locked us in. It doesn't want us to move past that. It's scared of what's going to happen, because all the power structures that be are going to come tumbling as we awaken, and we are awakening to this reality, right? That is beyond the reality that we've been kind of fed and indoctrinated, and I would argue colonized. We're all in this kind of colonization. Now it's corporate colonization, capitalism. We've all been fed this kind of thing where we're just supposed to be a good cog in the wheel, and now that's being exacerbated with technologies being twisted. AI, what it could be used for is actually being used for advertising, right? And how to manipulate us even further into just buying more shit we don't need.
Right. Well, if I was president, right, and you got elected to Congress or to the Senate, you would have to go through one ayahuasca ceremony. Absolutely. That's what I would do. And could you imagine the paradigm shift?
Oh, man.
That would be a brave new world. Our guest tonight, Porangui. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Our guest tonight, Porangui. Now, world musician, fully awoke, We're talking ET, and I want to get back a little bit, if you don't mind, to where we were when we left off, because you bring up a really important point, which is that there are a large number in our community, if not the world, that they don't need some type of official disclosure. They've had their experiences, they have their sightings, they have their beliefs, and they're okay with the way, you know, they just want to move forward with consciousness and awakening, and that's fine. Yeah. But then there's the other half of the community, and this beautiful community of ours is infighting about this very subject. And there's the other half that want the government to admit to contact. They want to admit to them withholding technology. They want to, and until that type of disclosure happens, nothing is good enough. And I understand both sides, but I've had my sightings. I've seen the things that I don't need any proof to come from the government to change or solidify my experiences. But that's the problem that we have today, isn't it? Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't look for validity ever from the government, to say the least. So it's like, I kind of like, for me, it's like, wow, the government's shut down. It's kind of, what's going on? It's like, it's kind of a ridiculous thing. It's mostly a pain in the ass, I think, for us, because I can't call the IRS because they're after me because I didn't have health insurance because I'm a musician, Right. It's ridiculous. So at the end, I think the important piece is, and that's kind of what I was touching on when we went to break, is that, I feel a lot of people get overwhelmed and they kind of almost get apathetic or they get shut down. And I think that's the danger. I think the real important thing is to not get overwhelmed, whether it's true or not true, whether, they need to kind of come out or not come out. I think it comes back to how can we continue shifting this whole thing forward? And it starts with us. And I mean us as in as in the individual person. And that's why I feel it's so important, the work that you're doing here, with all of this, with sharing what you do through your creative channels, the work that I'm doing as a musician out there and sharing it also through those creative channels. I think we have to all do our part right now, more than ever, to really help keep that cohesive field moving forward and keep us remembering that, we're all activists. We have to be activists at this point. We have to activate each other to continue to move forward right now with what this transition and how to be a better relative. As I was saying, it's so important. And that looks like a lot of different things, but it comes back to, first of all, relation to self. How are you taking care of yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? How are you taking care of your little piece of this earth? Right? Whether that's just in your relationship to your beloved or to your family, what does that look like in your local community? And then in that greater community, right? And how we're able to impact people through the web or in our travels. And I feel like there's all these layers that those things really have to start there, because I feel so many people just kind of get, oh man, I can't even deal with all this, right? They're like, AI, now you're going to throw that in there? Right. And they're just overwhelm mode. And then you just get apathetic and you're just like, whatever. And I'm going to go to the movie theater and just forget about it. And then there is the science side of things. And you brought it up. You brought up the quantum level of things that are going on. And science is pursuing this so aggressively, knowing that there is some of the answers for them, for math and the things that they are working on to make the numbers work. There has to be something parallel going on. There has to be extra dimensions. Then you have string theory with 10 dimensions and possibly 11. And so they know about this and they are aware of it. Then we have the paradox. We have this strange situation where ayahuasca and DMT has been used not only through ourselves internally, naturally created, but through ceremony for thousands of years, going to another world, and where the experiences of those that have gone through this all over this planet all talk about the same experiences, the same place where they have gone, the same spirits that they have talked to, the same physical things, the same descriptions of where they go to. But science doesn't want to explore this, that there is a possibility here, and they won't take this into a laboratory controlled setting to see if that is exactly what is going on, that this is a tool, this is a mechanism, to an instrument, if you will, to go and visit another world that exists amongst our own. Why is that? I don't understand why they don't even want to challenge it.
Well, I mean, the why, I think, is probably the easiest question. I think to answer in so much as I think there's a lot of fear. Obviously, like all of the war on drugs, all of the fear that was generated out of the, kind of the response to the 60s, right? And Timothy Leary, all of that kind of reactionary kind of knee-jerk thing that we saw from the administrations, where they basically, classified all of these incredible, even clear therapeutic beneficial medicines as all these Schedule 1, Schedule 2 drugs. And so now you finally actually see, for the first time here in history, we're seeing that change. And so right now, as we speak, there is actually several things that are happening. MAPS, probably familiar with MAPS, the organization. They're working actively right now, and there are several different clinical trials that are coming online. There looks like basically psilocybe is on the block potentially to be declassified, as well as MDMA for therapeutic use. There's a number of substances that are really important medicines. Ketamine's already there, which is, a very interesting one. It's already being used in clinical settings with people. Right now, for ayahuasca, of course, you have to do that outside of the United States. For ibogaine as well, there's iboga centers already just across the border in Mexico, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing amazing work, right? Treating all kinds of things from depression to PTSD to chronic pain.
Heroin addiction.
Yeah, heroin addiction. Yeah, iboga is amazing for that, right?
Right.
Ayahuasca has various uses. And of course, ayahuasca isn't just dimethyltryptamine, DMT. It has a load of other alkaloids that are also super healing. And so it's really an interesting time to actually watch all this and to be a part of this movement. And so there's a whole thing happening. Actually, I have a dear friend of mine, Dan Engel, Dr. Dan Engel. If anyone wants to look him up, I really recommend it. He's got a clinic that they have a neurobiology clinic in Boulder, Colorado, and he's opening another one in Austin. There's going to be a whole bunch of these clinics opening. That the main thing they treat is traumatic brain injury, right? So they work with like athletes or people who've been in major accidents, but they're taking them using all of this cutting edge technology, including using ketamine right now legally. They have ketamine sessions happening where they take them into even float tanks and different types of hyperbaric chambers, and using even stem cells. It's amazing, man, this cutting edge, and seeing the brain basically turn back on. And it's just mind-boggling what they're doing and helping people heal and restore and rebuild new neural pathways. And it's all being done under, full-on clinical supervision with rigorous science around it. And so it's shifting. I mean, the fear of like the science, the old model of science that's like kind of scared and has been funded and, dependent on government grants, that's all shifting right now. There's a big pivot happening and moving into the private sector. And a lot of people, especially with all of the push, I think that's also coming out of Silicon Valley, and a lot of people in kind of the tech arenas who get, and maybe Burning Man is part of this, has instigated this kind of like threshold of where
I see that.
There's a movement happening where a lot of really brilliant minds, they get that, hey, there's something here. We can't keep ignoring this technology that is awakening us, and it's helping. It's, people microdosing with LSD or, things of that nature, or psilocybe, for instance, and finding that they're more creative, they're more productive, they're more focused, they're able to solve problems they couldn't solve otherwise, because they're actually activating more of their brain.
And then we have the problem of ayahuasca and DMT getting a bad name because you've got these, groups of people going down to Peru and Ecuador to go party.
Well, that's the double-edged sword of capitalism, right?
Right.
It's so twisted. So yeah, now because of there being more kind of common, it's entering the mainstream, and like everything that enters the mainstream, I mean, look at it with a great example is yoga, right? So here you have this form that is ancient, that has been cultivated, and is basically just one little sliver of a massive spiritual tradition that's all geared to reaching enlightenment. And what do? We commodify it. We sell you yoga mats and, you know, the latest in yoga clothes.
Right.
And you know, the yoga music to go with it. And it's like, let me like put all of this consumer branding and, you know, capitalist basically model right onto this thing and totally alienate this beautiful form of reaching alignment and turn it into just another form of consumption. And so, of course, with ayahuasca and what we've seen in these shamanic traditions is that's also happened. Now the word's gotten out. And I mean, you know, I scored the soundtrack to a documentary film that definitely reached a lot of people that then went down to Peru as a result of that. And so I definitely had a conversation with Mother Ayahuasca, you know, and I call her Mama, like she's like a grandmother because she's a consciousness. She's a spirit, a being. Depending on how you want to look at that, or like I was saying before, you could talk about it in different ways. But to put it simply, you know, she wants to be known. She's like what she told me in my work with her and over the years, and this is since I was young. She said, you know, this is time right now. Like all of the plants, all of the other species on the planet, they have an awareness, they have a consciousness. It's not that it's just humans and everything else is like, you know, just stuff for us to extract and exploit. Everything has an awareness, and everyone is hip to what the humans are doing right now. And everyone's like, we got to do something. And so those master ally plants and teachers are saying, hey, it's time for us to kind of really come back and help to activate and help the human beings who are the stewards of this earth and have the birthright, as I said earlier, with fire, to master and to honor their role as the fire keepers right now more than ever, because this singularity, this technology.
See, that's what's most important here. There's a ceremony and a tradition that is there for a reason. Absolutely. You can't just go down to Peru and you know, go and sign up for this and start the ceremony and go, okay, man, when are we going to start drinking? Dude, it's not about that.
Right.
You know, that, and it's also a danger zone. You know, you need to, you need to respect what you are doing. You know, and by the way, and not to cut you off, which I just did so rudely, but are you a musical shaman? I mean, do you look at yourself that way?
You know, some people have called me that. You know, I don't like the word shaman just because I feel like it's kind of another one of those appropriated like words that kind of has just become the catch-all phrase for anyone who works in the spiritual realm. But
that's right.
You know what I mean? And kind of it just like it's almost become cliche. So I kind of say, you know, the shenanigans, you're doing the shenanigans, the shamans. For me though, man, it's you know, it's just about connecting to spirit and doing that in the most authentic way with as little bullshit and ego as possible. And that's why I say for me, it's about getting out of the way. And so I'm not making that music. You know, people say, oh man, you're so great. Oh, you're so brilliant. It's like, well, thank you. But you know, that's not me. It's like, if it were just me, it wouldn't be so great. It's actually not me. It's like, that's coming from spirit. That is inspired from spirit. And I don't claim it. You know, I didn't write these songs. I didn't record. Like, I'm there. Yeah, my body's there. But I'm acting in service. And that's really the key for me. And I feel that's the piece too about the ayahuasqueros and the vegetalistas when we talk about them, the vegetalists, which basically means the plant medicine men or medicine women. They are working with these plants, you know, the real ones. Okay, there's plenty of shenanigans going on now because it's an industry now. It's become a tourism thing. Now you go down, you get off the plane in Iquitos or the boat rather, or the plane, and man, you got everybody. Hey, ayahuasca, whatever, shaman, you know, this, that, and the other, Cambo, you name it, whatever you want. Stuff that's not even from there is being offered, and it's really dangerous because it's become the money has gotten involved, right? And like anything, once the money enters the equation, it starts to distort things, right? It starts to kind of to corrupt it. And ayahuasca herself, that teacher, that master, she's not the corrupted one, right? It's like she's still going to work with you in a good way, but this is the danger and people don't get. It's like doing psychic surgery. You're not going to hand a scalpel to some doc that you just met off the street, right? And be like, hey, man, will you work on my brain here and just help me, like, you know, fix a little bit of depression? No freaking way, right? You would go find out, get references, like you're going to know who you're dealing with. And it's the same with ayahuasca. You're opening up your psychic portal. You're basically in the operating room. And now you're saying, okay, I'm wide open. Now, when you're wide open, man, like I was saying earlier with the ceremonies that I grew up in, even just with the drumming, when we go into trance states with just the music, let alone when we add the layer of these master plants, you are opening yourself up to anything. And so it's very dangerous. People don't even understand the level of danger that's there from entities coming in, from other beings, from attacks, psychic attacks. I mean, it is a full-on war. When you're hip to this might freak people out there, so sorry, listeners, but you got to understand there's a whole other dimension there's full-on battles happening between various shamans. And I'm using shamans here just because that's how people can understand that term, but people who work in these dimensions and who know how to navigate them to different degrees.
Yes.
There are people who know how to actually move through these spaces.
And set you up before, they are steering you mentally into a direction, and they are in full control.
Absolutely, yes. And sometimes you literally have your own protection and guides that you don't even know that are with you. That protect you.
Right.
They're there, but actually they're there. There's allies as well. It's not all dark, but there's a lot of dark, unfortunately, because why? Dark is attracted. The light and the dark are always working, right, in this dance. And so it's the same in this. This applies as above, so below, as without, so within. And so you have this happening. So it's very dangerous. I can't overstate this. And so people don't get it. It's like you have to know who you're sitting with. You have to know who is holding the space, who's your road man or road woman. And it doesn't matter what it is. I would even extend that analogy to music. When you're going out to a concert or you're going out to a club and you're getting shit-faced, you got to know, man, like if you're listening, whoever's up there guiding the ceremony, because I hate to say it, but it is a ceremony. It really is. Music, the performance, it goes all back to the original fire. When we were sitting there with grandma and grandpa and the medicine man of your village, right, whether they were druids or whether they were in Africa or whether they were in South America or they were the Aboriginal people, and they're moving energy, and you go into that trance state, and you're in an altered state, whether that's with alcohol, tobacco, which is a master plant, by the way, that's been totally misunderstood, ganja, which is another master plant, Santa Maria marijuana pot. All of these are teachers, and they're opening our perception, which we know 9/10 of reality is the way in which we perceive it. That science has told us that. So if you understand that you're altering your perception, you're altering reality, you're opening up doors and portals, you're actually impacting change. So going back to that very first question, that you asked me is, are you different afterwards? Yes, absolutely. It's each one of my ceremonies has informed who I am right now. It's like the same man never walks into the same river.
That's right. That's right. And did you see the documentary with Michelle Rodriguez?
I don't know that I have. What's it called?
Okay. I can't remember. I was hoping you'd remember. So it'll pop up here on Twitter. Okay. All we got to do is talk about it. But anyway, it's about her going down to Peru and going through all of the steps, all of the pre-ceremony, the knowledge of what she was doing, and then going up into the mountains, full on every day, every step, finally, going through the ceremony up on this cliff. And she does the whole thing. But the point is, we all know Michelle Rodriguez, right? And I don't use foul language on this show, but Michelle Rodriguez is pretty badass. And we have a perception of her of what she has done in her career and her personality, right? She's pretty cool. She's pretty rugged. She goes through this ceremony, and then Michelle Rodriguez afterwards, I'm not even so sure that she wanted to come back to civilization. I'm not so sure if she was too hip about Hollywood after that, if you know what I mean.
I do.
And and how is that for you to come back and to take a look around, because you just learned something about yourself. You've just had your epiphanies, right? You've had you've asked your questions and you've gotten your answers. That's all part of the ceremony. And then you come back here and you drive past a McDonald's, right?
Or more questions.
Yes, that's exactly the point. And then you drive past Walmart. What? Right. How does that change you? I mean, you can't shut down Walmart, right?
Well,
or can you?
Well, I'll tell you. For me, what I've been shown by the master teachers, and by these are teachers, all of these different plants, and Aya is just one, actually multiple, but it's one head, one main teacher there. And she shows up in various forms and shapeshifts, but some would say she's connected to the anaconda, which is the ancient serpents that live in the deep jungle. You know, these snakes are very old. You could even connect them to the myths about dragons. You know, these are old beings, old earth beings, and not in this like scary, like, oh man, evil serpent, like kind of, you know, the devil kind of Christian, Judeo-Christian way, but more of like the serpent as the keeper of knowledge and of health and of eternal life and all of that wisdom that is mystical knowledge that has been largely lost. And so she communicates to us. And one of the things that she's helped me to see and remember about myself, and that's the biggest thing, is helping you remember. These doors to perception, they help us to remember information that's been encoded and in our very DNA. It's in our body, but our minds forget because we're forgetful beings. And of course, now we use our cybernetic technology of like our iPhones or whatever, you know, to extend our ability. And that's just going to increase as the bandwidth gets widened from our thumbs to mainline into an AI framework. But it's still this thing we forget of why we really came here. What are we here to do? Be better relative. What does that look like? So for me, she showed me, you're a shakaruna. What is a shakaruna? That's a Quechua word, and it means, shaka means bridger, runa means people. So bridge person or bridge people. So what does that mean? I'm a world bridger, and that's part of my medicine that I bring to the world. So what do I do? Through music, which is a powerful medium of vibrational technology, is helping to bridge the worlds. I bridge that world of that ceremony there that a lot of people can't go to or don't even understand how to start to even approach. And I bridge it into the moment there in a festival, in a club, you know, on the stage or in a retreat or in a session when I do my healing work. I'm there to basically help that person connect to it and shapeshift and bridge them to that world so that they can remember why they came here. And in doing that, and of course, one-on-one session, I only reach one person. I can go really deep. With many people on a stage, I can reach many people. And that's kind of the thing. How do I amplify this? Because of the time we're in, we have to accelerate this. We're running out of time, right? We have to cut to commercial real quick. And so this is happening right now in our lives. It's like, how do we get this? And the way that we do it is a bandwidth problem, just like I was talking about the AI. It's sound and vibration can tell so much more in a moment. The emotion, the feeling that I can communicate through sound is so much more powerful than all the words I could ever say. And that's really where it comes down to.
And at what point, we've got 2 minutes.
Okay,
At what point does somebody know that they are ready for the ceremony? Because it is, it's a true commitment. I mean, it's something that is about as serious as anything that you will do in your life, maybe the most serious. But at what point does somebody know that they are ready?
That's a great question. I think that's truly the question that we each have to ask ourselves. Am I ready? And you, more than likely, you're going to say you're not.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I've had my opportunities. I've had the offers, and I'm not.
Let me give you a quick analogy. So I like to look at the story of the buffalo. I don't know if you've ever heard this. So one of my elders, he once told me this, a Lakota elder, and he says, you know, the buffalo, they're very wise beings. The herd of buffalo, when they used to roam in their massive herds across the plains of the Americas, they would always, if they see a storm coming on the horizon, they knew the intelligence of the herd was not to run away from the storm. It was to go into the heart of the storm. And they would actually do that because they knew if they could go into the fear, into the thing that was so ominous and scary, it would be the quickest way through. If they turned around and ran away, it would chase them and they would be in the storm much, much longer and suffer way more. And so I love that story. And remember the buffaloes, because whatever that fear is for you that comes up for you, and everything comes up on the way to ceremony, by the way, so just know that, is that you go through it. And if you can grab that courage, whatever inkling of courage you've got, take that with you with heart and use your heart. This isn't the mind, but about the heart, and go into the fear. And I promise you, that's where the medicine is for you. And it may not be the ceremony. It may look like something else, but that is the ceremony of life.
The documentary I was talking about is called The Reality of Truth.
Oba.
Yes, 2016. Everybody's in it. Deepak Chopra's in it. Peter Coyote is the narrator. He's awesome. Cool. Yeah, Ram Dass is in it, and pretty much if David Lynch, right?
Oh yeah,
and you know, of course, Michelle Rodriguez, but It's an amazing documentary. I recommend it highly.
I'm going to look that up right now. Yeah, Reality of Truth.
The Reality of Truth. Man. You know, you just want to hold Michelle. There's a couple of times in the movie where she is right on the edge of which we all want to be at that point, but she is literally questioning everything. You know, I mean, I'm not playing around. Let's take a break right here, and we'll pick up. Let's do a little overtime. Normally we say good night right here. We're not going to do that. Let's keep this going. It's too good. And, right on. Yeah, absolutely. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Porangui. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter,
but listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi folks, CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and my family is safe because of Numana Emergency Food Storage. Just go to the Numana banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Promo code Jimmy10.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany,
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Poranguí. We are talking about, we do. I was just going to say, I'm laughing. We have talked about everything tonight. We've gotten it all on the table. I just got a question that just popped up in Twitter. There's a bunch of them here, but what was the documentary that you did the soundtrack for?
It was actually titled Ayahuasca.
And that came out in like 2015?
2016.
Yeah, 2016. Okay, yeah. And so that's what it's called, simply ayahuasca.
Yeah, people can they can check it out. It's through AubreyMarcus.com. He's the CEO of On It, but he also does a lot around kind of sharing with the world about various plant teachers, and yeah, he's definitely his website though. Through there, you'll find the links, and I think there's a short link that goes there as well. But I think that's the easiest way is AubreyMarcus.com. Yeah,
there you go. Now the reason why I say that I'm scared. Is, and I want to share this with everybody. The reason why sometimes we're scared of the answers. That's, and there's this, right. You don't want to open up the Pandora's box.
Oh, right.
And maybe some are just comfortable in the incorrectness of their life, right? And
totally. Oh, you said the key word, comfort.
Right. And
yeah, we're comfortable.
And the idea of being into a situation that I'm not 100% fully in control of, because you are not, right? You are not. And when I have heard the different descriptions of, here, a DMT, 10 minutes in and out, right? 15 minutes in and out. Well, okay, but that's 15 minutes where I am not in control. And so there's that part of it too. And that's what and it would have to be the absolute perfect situation, perfect setting, perfect shaman, perfect, the mood, the sun, the moon, the stars. Everything has got to be perfect for me to consider it. And I just haven't been at that point. Been close, though. I've been close, I'll admit. I've been in situations where it was right there. Now, and this is the other thing. Let me ask you this. Very direct, by the way. Let's suppose you and I and Rita, right? Okay, we're down in Peru. We're down in Peru. Perfect setting, right? Mountaintop, everything, and it's just right there. And we're 6 hours in. Okay? All right. Are you with me?
6 hours into ceremony?
After drinking. We are 6 hours in. We are official, right?
Okay, yeah.
We are at the no turning back. Okay, so anyway, we're 6 hours in. And then something real happens. A light comes down from the sky, descends, and is in front of us, and that happens. We're already into a life-changing ceremony. And then something like that happens during the ceremony that is out of our control. Do we remember that? Does that affect us? Does that change the ceremony? What would happen, for you, that is, you've experienced this enough, that if something like that happened, then how are we changed? And that is something else that I'm a little bit afraid of. The combination of the reality of the 2D world that we live in, and something like that happens during this where we are someplace else.
So the question is, what do we do?
what would happen?
What would happen?
Because the two worlds are colliding, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess. Oh, it's interesting. Now, when you say the two worlds, you mean just there's the kind of the waking life, let's call it.
That's right.
And then there's kind of the life where we start to go into the other realms of the unseen world.
Correct.
Yeah. And then there's another layer that you threw on there of this light descending. So are you referring to extraterrestrial contact?
That's right.
Or?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's kind of three. Yeah, you have the three dimensions kind of all working together in that. There's three vectors. I mean, to be totally honest, I think when I've been in that space, and I can only speak to, I guess, my own experience, you very much connected, total connection. So totally empathic, all psychic channels open, ability to perceive the imperceptible, tune into like the most minute, like I can hear like individual drops of rain and see them with my inner vision. That are hitting the maloka, the ceremonial lodge, if you will, that falling from, sky, and I can see them in three-dimensional space. So you're so tuned in, and I've actually, it's like I feel if we were in that scenario, and supposing that we are then visited at that time by star beings, I would almost say it's actually kind of normal. It's kind of normal because when I'm in that space, and I've been in that space. I've been visited by so many beings, and these beings are, they've never had bad intention. Like I've never had personally. I know people talk about having more difficult experiences, but there's something that I always take with me, and kind of you said it there. You said kind of the fear of the discomfort, because is what I'm filling in the blank when you say like fear of not being comfortable, or like what's going to come, right? And so I really think that Pink Floyd hit it on the head, right? In his famous lyrics, of comfortably numb, right? It's like we've become comfortably numb in our society. And I feel that's the biggest fear, is that we're scared to venture outside of our comfort zone. And in so doing, our comfort zone actually is not a comfort zone. It's actually a prison. There's literally bars there. And we're free in America. We're actually not free. We're free to consume. You're free to buy stuff. That's about as free as you really are when you get down to it. And so it's like, it's kind of a really harsh awakening. And I think The Matrix, to draw another kind of parallel there, the movie The Matrix, right? That concept was very beautifully executed, right? The red pill, the blue pill. And so it's like, are you ready to get jettisoned out of your comfortable, nice steak meal and get thrown out into the cosmos? And what's going to happen? And it's like, yes, that is the great unknown. Now, here's the beauty of it. There is so much beauty in that unknown. And the fact is, you're always in the unknown. It's all unknown, man. You could get up tomorrow, get in your car, go to your 8 to 5, and be head-on collision, and you're gone. And you just don't know. Like, that's the fact, right?
Right. You never got those answers.
We actually don't. And so when we're able to go to that edge and actually go within a good context, like you've done your homework, you're sitting with someone who is of integrity, which is essential. You've gotten good references. You're sitting in a place that you know is a good place. They're holding that medicine in a good way, in a lineage way. And you're going there with a clear heart yourself, a brave heart, because it does require the brave heart. There's no joke. This is not light work. But it's not like we're not just going to go have a drink. It's like you're going to go have a drink, but this is a drink that rather than, drinking so much that you purge, this drink that you're supposed to purge. And the purge is welcomed, and they call it getting well. And this getting well is because you're literally pulling toxins. This plant medicine is taking stuff that is not good. It's taking out the bad so that you can put in the good. And the difference between, we were saying earlier about the 15-minute DMT experience, or even some people, it's really fast, like 5-minute peak, right? Versus a 4 to 6 hour, ayahuasca ceremony, sometimes a little longer. You would re-up your dose, but typically in that range, is that Aya, she's gentle. Like I said, she's a mother or grandmother. She's an elder spirit that doesn't want to, she's not trying to beat you up. Now, not to say people don't have some rough experiences. Maybe they got a lot of toxic stuff that they're dealing with and literally purging out. And like, I've heard stuff come into the bucket, the purge bucket, that sounds like glass, man. Stuff that you're like, how the hell was that even in me? And people report all kinds of stuff. But afterwards, they feel amazing. They feel totally rejuvenated, totally healed, transformed, truly. And I think the price that you pay for a little discomfort, it's so worth it, man. That price of entry is actually super low when you really get down to it. Not to mention when you get present with the fact that you're always in the unknown. You have the illusion. It's totally a fabrication. It's a hologram that you're safe and that everything's going to work. Because, the government shuts down. And look who's our president. Look what's happening right now on the planet. Like, it's crazy. Antarctica is melting as we speak, and people are still want to debate about it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. It comes down to the fact that this is an opportunity for people, I think, if you're ready. And I'm not saying, by the way, in all this, I don't want to advocate at all that that's the only way. I think you can totally reach these states just through using dance, just through using music, just through using breath, just through meditation. Like, there's so many roads to take you up this mountain.
Yeah.
But it is a powerful road. And for those who are like ready and courageous and ready to do the inner work and I would argue is kind of like get the cannonball. You could hike up this with meditation, or you could get like the cannonball launch you, through the cannon up to the top for a little while. And, and the thing is DMT, that 5-minute peak experience, that's going to launch you so fast that you're probably going to miss most of the key wisdom. Like you said, am I going to remember this afterwards?
Right.
You're probably not going to remember the really important things, to be honest, because it's just so much so fast and we don't have the bandwidth, we're forgetful beings. But she's actually very masterful. The combination, the technology of those plants, it creates a portal of that 6 hours that's just about the sweet spot where you actually can have full-on dialogue and communicate and actually remember and have retention when you come out and be able to journal down and actually walk away with some powerful insights and lessons and a changed human. And I feel, so if I were to recommend one over the other, if we're just looking at these two things as two possible paths,
right,
I would definitely recommend sitting with Aya. I feel like DMT is an isolated molecule. It's like anything. It's like pharmacology, right? Yeah, you get all the bang, but you miss the wisdom. You miss, you know what I mean? You kind of get the effect. You get a lot of visuals, but you miss really what you're going there to do. I'm not just going for the light show. That's actually the boring part to me. Once you've done this work enough, you get and talk to the curanderos and the shamans, and they'll tell you that's just the light show. That's just kind of make you like be able to sit there long enough. But the real important work is the insights that you get. And that's the communication that comes through. And sometimes it's visceral. Sometimes it's a dream. It's a vision. Sometimes it's just literally a feeling that overwhelms you. Like suddenly self-love. Like maybe you've just been really feeling like hating yourself and hating your life and just really depressed. And all of a sudden you're shown what it feels like to love yourself again. And
it's a cyclical thing too. Every time, my last experience, I should say, going up to ESETI, where I was up there for 7-8 days, completely free of chemicals and alcohol and everything else, just eating healthy and out there with nature, no television, no radio, nothing. And you go through that, and there's a lot of really cool things that are going down. You're making contact, and there's spiritual things that are happening on the ground, and it's just cleansing and incredible. Then you get on a plane and you fly back to LA, and you immediately get off the plane and onto a freeway, and right, you're just looking around going, you know what? I don't want to be here. Yeah. And it's this shock to the system, and you look around, and the infrastructure of everything in place for everybody day to day to make Los Angeles work, right? It's a very complex, living, breathing thing that is a giant city like this. Right. And it's a transition where you start to question everything, yes, and I've gone through that with no psychedelics.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, I've done it a lot myself. I mean, I don't know if you know this. I'm also a sun dancer, which is a whole other conversation. But it's a very important lineage. One of the 7 sacred ceremonies that is passed down through the Lakota Sioux and tribes. And I've been honored to be adopted by family and to dance. And that's part of my road as a spiritual person. And in that, just to summarize, a lot of people maybe you've heard of it. You probably heard of it because of a festival, a movie festival, but it's a lot more. They got the name from this very ancient ceremony.
That's right.
That ceremony, you don't use any entheogenic plants, you don't use any medicine plants, but you work. I mean, maybe tobacco. I guess you could call it that because that is a master plant. But we work specifically with just working with no food, no water, dancing from sunrise to sunset, and purifying with sweat lodge. Just sweating, right? Mm-hmm. And you're in prayer for those 4 days. And the only way your body can physically make it through that is if you can really anchor yourself in your prayers. Because if you think about how much your body hurts or how much like you're thirsty and how hungry you are in hell. But the moment you shift your focus out to like why you're there dancing, and that you start thinking about all the people that you've known in your life, all their faces come to you in that moment, and you start sending them your prayers. It's ancient technology, man. It opens up this portal and you start to receive visions without anything, no external substance, just what's built into your body. And so it's all in us. In fact, we don't need all the external stuff, and we don't need actually these plants necessarily. We can get there, like I said, with other things. And I encourage people to do that. And a lot of my work is, even though I have this background, it's about encouraging people to sobriety is actually such a powerful thing. When we can just be in our sobriety and access these states in that state and realize that it's all built in. The neurochemistry is all in our brain already. And I actually, when I was at Duke, I studied in neuroscience, and one of my best friends that I worked in a neurobiology lab, he's another Brazilian. His name was Siddhartha, which is a great name. And he was a capoeirista. We both practiced capoeira together. And we rap about this forever. His whole thing was he wanted to figure out how to activate the anandamide that's already in our brain so that you don't have to smoke weed. THC is just it's an analog to the anandamide that's already endogenously produced by the brain.
That's correct. Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So how can
just like DMT,
Exactly. Massive amounts of DMT, right? But we get those psychedelic amounts come at near death, right? Or birth and death. Or if we have a near-death experience. So it's fascinating, right? That's all in us. And so all you have to do, if you know the right way to unlock that, which music can do, by the way, so can dance, which is why that's been used by all peoples around the world, right? Even with no extra substances. And so I feel like that's really the key. And I really encourage people. It's like, if you can master that and get to that state just through the meditation, through breath work, you're there, you're winning the game. Because ultimately, and this kind of gets back to what you were saying about what do you do when you get back to LA and there's the city. It's the piece called integration. And it's probably the biggest piece that people miss when they go to do this kind of work is the integration work. They don't give themselves the time or the space to actually integrate now what you've just received, this jewel you've just been given. Mm-hmm. And I liken it to the analogy of a fresco, of a painting. You just had this beautiful painting made, right? And all these oils are on this canvas that was, you just got blasted with this amazing canvas. You can't just go and put your hand across the canvas. You literally got to give it a little time to set. Otherwise, it's just going to become this mess of colors. And I think it's very much like that with any of this work. It's like give yourself at least some buffer time as you're coming, the re-entry time before you go back to your day-to-day grind of like more important almost than the ceremony days is give yourself an extra week. Like if you're a week in ceremony, give yourself another week of just integrating that ceremony at least. And actually you need more time, but I know people have day jobs or whatever, but give that self to yourself because it's so important. Because if you don't do that, you really are doing yourself a disservice, and you're more than likely actually going to there's the potential to create more issues more harm than good.
And you're going to go right back to the cycle.
Exactly. And even in a worse place, because then you, like you said, you might be even more bummed out because you're like, what am I freaking doing in this machine?
That's right. And then what I find is that because I've done this enough, you come back after being disconnected and you get back to LA and you go through that bummed out period. In fact, you're always, man, maybe we should just get a cabin in the mountains, right? But
totally.
2 days later, it's all forgotten, right? You're right back into the grind. You're right. Yeah. It becomes a distant memory. Because you have to participate in everything Los Angeles. You can't go against the grain here.
The Matrix.
Yeah, you won't survive. You won't survive. You're swimming with sharks, and man, it's just so funny.
So what do you do? And that's a great. I think the question is like, so what do you do? And I feel so the integration piece is one, and then the next piece of that is find your tribe. find your community. You know, there's a lot of people now, even in LA. I know a lot of these communities. They're amazing communities there that work in transformational healing arts and have gatherings and work to kind of keep this spirit alive, keep our spirits alive and activated and juiced up so that we can continue to affect change. Because the worst is you get jaded, you just go right back into the cog, there's a cog in the machine. And I think the real important thing is to find your support community, your tribe. And some people do that, they go to transformational festivals. There's numerous scenes. One of the big ones that I recommend people check out, LA has an amazing ecstatic dance community. And I don't know if you're familiar with ecstatic dance. Have you heard of that? Do you know?
Yes, of course.
Okay, yeah. So and of course, all of the Disclosure Fest guys, they have an amazing community in LA now that, it's a beautiful network of people, it's kind of like the mycelial network that are very interconnected and create events and create conscious kind of gatherings that continue to help feed this work that we're all doing. Because I feel like we need it. If we feel like we're alienated and isolated, which is what's happening to a lot of us, and it's so ironic because the web, as much as it seems to it's all interconnected now through the web, it's like we're actually more isolated than ever, right? And kind of disconnected because we're just looking at these screens all the time, and we lose the empathic connection with each other, right? So I feel like it's really important. So Ecstatic Dance is an amazing community. I'm actually going to be playing there on my tour for the album release. They have a dome there called the Wisdom, and I'm playing there just in a couple weeks.
Wait! The album release is when?
Oh, so the album's dropping March 1st, the new album, which is a live album.
I thought it was later on in May. It's March 1st.
Yeah, March 1st.
In a month.
It's It's the pre-release is already active. It's on my website, Poranguí.com, so people they can pre-order it and already start streaming one of the songs there, Tonantzin, which means Mother Earth in Nahuatl, in the Aztec tongue. And there's going to be, the rest are all going to go live March 1st. And I'm doing a release tour. And on that tour, we're actually going to be playing in San Diego at Trilogy on the 22nd, and then the 24th, we're in LA at the Wisdom, it's called. And it's this 360 dome. They're going to be doing this amazing projection mapping, super visionary kind of visuals to go with music. And it's Ecstatic Dance LA Presents.
And that's on March 24th?
That's happening February 24th.
February 24th in 3 weeks.
This is the lead up. This is all the lead up to the album launch. In March 1st, then we go up to San Francisco and Nevada City. Nevada City's the 28th. I play there at Miners Foundry. That's like the night of the album launch. And then on the 1st, I play in San Francisco at Oakland Suites Ballroom, the historic ballroom there. Again, Ecstatic Dance Presents. And so this is the Ecstatic Dance community. They love what I do because they're used to DJs, and I'm one of the few people that come in and do it all live. And it's pretty epic. So if you get to experience this, anyone in those areas who are listening, come out, because you get to really experience what I do, which is to channel into all of you and make this journey, to move our body and really get into these spaces that we're talking about, just using the good old technology of the body, dance and music,
Is the entire tour schedule up on Porangui.com?
Yes. The tour dates are there. There's going to be a few more dates added. The ones I just mentioned you're getting finalized details. So that's those are the dates. It's going to be March 1st at Oakland Suites Ballroom, 28th at Miners Foundry, and then the other dates are already up there, I believe.
Thank you so much. What a great conversation tonight. I had so much fun, and this is what I really enjoy, is when you can combine music, food, culture, dance, and UFOs, all in and ayahuasca, all in one conversation. We all win. These are the things that interest me, and it went right there tonight. Thank you so much, man. Great conversation.
Yeah, you got it, Jimmy. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. Really a treat to connect with you more. Yeah, that first conversation we had before the big Disclosure Fest in DC was just like a teaser. So this is sweet.
Yeah, totally. Let's see. Rita, we're at the end of. I see what you're saying, Rita. Okay, actually, Porangui, stay right there. I'm going to run credits, but I need to talk to you after I sign off. So just stay right there. I'm going to put you on hold. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, let's let's wrap it. What a great show tonight. Now, it's Porangui.com. Just go to Jimmy Church Radio, click on the links right there. Full tour schedule. The album drops on March 1st, so it'll all be over right there at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Very simple. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2019 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Tomorrow night, right here, author, researcher, Patrick Wood. Until tomorrow night, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.